my Iceberg CEO wife. After work, Xiong returns to the construction dormitory. 5 minutes later, after coming out of the bathroom, Xiong's demeanor had completely changed. Standing at around 1.8 meters tall, wearing a branded shirt and trousers, with imported leather shoes on his feet, his short hair spiked up neatly, he looked like a celebrity. It's been only a few minutes, and you've already gotten dressed. Wang Tong, his roommate, was speechless. If someone had a gun pointed at you, you'd be able to dress this fast too, Xiong replied with a smirk. Wang Tong had long gotten used to Xiong's flights of fancy. The guy had been on the construction site for almost half a year now and constantly told ridiculous stories, sometimes claiming he was once a hitman, other times a bodyguard, sometimes saying he had traveled to over a dozen countries in Europe and had experienced the charms of 10 different national beauties. The most absurd thing was when he claimed he had been buried underground for a month and survived. If he were really that extraordinary, why would he be working as a construction worker for the Yarn Corporation? To clarify, both of them were construction workers. It was hard to believe someone who claimed to have experienced all these adventures was now working as a laborer, but Wang Tong didn't really care. Luckily, despite his occasional delusions, Xiong was a good guy, generous, loyal, and good to his friends. Like today, when Wang Tong mentioned he had never been to the Eastern Grand Hotel, Xiong immediately offered to take him there, saying he knew someone whose wedding was being held at the hotel. The Eastern Grand Hotel was the most luxurious hotel in Jiangnan City, and tonight the entire venue was booked. The wedding of Yang Sini, CEO of Sini Group, and He Haodong, the executive director of Haiyan Group, was the talk of the town. Speaking of Sini Group, it was impossible not to mention the company's president, Yang Sini. She was the epitome of beauty and brains in the eyes of every unmarried man in Jiangnan City. Moreover, she was the only daughter of Yang Dinghua, the chairman of Sini Group. Marrying her was like gaining control of the entire company. Many rich second-generation and political heirs had pursued her, but in the end, she had fallen for He Haodong. However, this had nothing to do with Xiong. He didn't even know Yang Sini. He was only here for the big meal. Brother Xiong, you really know Yang Sini? Wang Tong asked, unable to believe it. One was the CEO of Sini Group, and the other was a construction worker under one of their construction teams. It was hard to imagine how they could possibly know each other. We were classmates in elementary school, Xiong answered casually. Why didn't you ask her to help you find a job? Wang Tong asked in confusion. Someone with such connections could easily help him find a decent job, far better than working on a construction site. I really like this job, Xiong said, gazing up proudly. Just think about it. Watching a building rise from the ground through my own hands, how fulfilling is that? You're crazy, Wang Tong muttered. As the two of them walked into the lobby, just as the elevator doors were about to close, a beautiful female voice interrupted them. Wait a second. A woman in high heels, with long wavy hair, and wearing red-framed glasses stepped inside. She was about 24 or 25 years old, around 1.7 meters tall, and dressed in a black evening gown. Her eyes resembled a deep pool of water, her eyebrows delicate like willow leaves, and her nose slender and elegant. Her lips were lightly painted with a nude lipstick, giving her a seductive allure. She had a proud chest, and both her appearance and temperament were exceptional. Miss, what floor? Wang Tong greeted her. Wang Tong was thin and short, looking almost malnourished. Standing next to the woman in high heels, he seemed even shorter. However, his baby face made him appear innocent, and no one would expect him to be the type of man who hid under the covers at night, watching adult videos. 8th floor, thank you, the woman responded gently, her voice carrying no arrogance. Are you here for the wedding too? Wang Tong asked. Yang Sini is my classmate, the woman replied. She is your friend too? What a coincidence, my friend is also her classmate. At that moment, the woman noticed Xiong standing beside Wang Tong and was secretly amazed. This man had such a refined aura. Xiong was about 1.8 meters tall, with well-defined features and an energetic charm. The glasses he wore covered his wild and domineering aura, making him appear both elegant and charismatic. Wang Tong looked at Xiong, then at the woman, and suddenly thought that they looked quite compatible well, as long as you ignored Xiong's job. Yang Sini, you have such a handsome classmate and you didn't introduce him to me? Wait until I get you back for this, the woman thought to herself. Hi, I'm Xiao Fangfang. Nice to meet you, the woman introduced herself. Xiong, Yi as in the leaf, Xiong as in mighty no, as in heroic, Yi Xiong said, smiling. Mr. Yi, you're so funny, Xiao Fangfang said, blushing slightly and revealing a row of white teeth. When did you and Sini become classmates? Elementary school, Yi Xiong replied. You went to first elementary school too? Xiao Fangfang asked, surprised. How come I don't remember you? Back then, I was like an ugly duckling, didn't he stand out, Yi Xiong replied. What class were you in? Well, 8th floor. We arrived. Let us go in first. Yi Xiong said, gesturing politely to the elevator. What a graceful man, Xiao Fangfang thought. Should we sit together, she suggested. We're meeting some friends. After dinner, we'll invite you for a drink, Yi Xiong answered. Deal. Xiao Fangfang said before walking away, her hips swaying as she left. Yi Xiong sighed in relief. That was a close one. He wanted to slap Wang Tong for starting unnecessary conversations with strangers. The banquet hall was huge, with hundreds of tables, the venue packed with guests. It was an extravagant affair. Brother Xiong, where do we sit? Wang Tong asked. Xiao Fangfang's appearance had messed up Yi Xiong's plan. If she went to ask Yang Sini, his cover would be blown. Now, the most important thing was to find a small room where Xiao Fangfang wouldn't find them, and they could eat and leave quickly. After all, with so many people here, it would be impossible for her to search for them all. Xiao Fangfang walked into the hall and immediately spotted Yang Sini, surrounded by a crowd, like a princess. She quickly walked over. My bride, you look so beautiful. I'm so jealous, Xiao Fangfang said. Yang Sini, in her purple wedding gown, had her neck exposed, with a sheer purple veil draped over her, adding an air of mystery. Her makeup was light, almost imperceptible. But her eyes carried a hint of sadness, unlike most brides who radiated excitement. Another one coming? You're really disappointing me, Yang Sini said, feigning unhappiness. How can you say that? You've been hiding your classmates from me. I'm going to cut ties with you. Xiao Fangfang teased. If someone has good conditions, I'll introduce them to you. It's you who don't appreciate them. Yang Sini replied helplessly. For her friend, Xiao Fangfang, Yang Sini had introduced many eligible bachelors, but none of them caught her attention. Now, everyone knew that Xiao Fangfang had high standards and was still single. Is someone hiding a perfect guy and refusing to introduce him to me? Xiao Fangfang retorted. Come on, admit it. Are you keeping a rich, handsome guy as a backup? Yang Sini gestured toward all the men in the hall. My friends and classmates are all here. Choose whichever one you like. What about Yi Xiong? Don't tell me you don't know him, Xiao Fangfang demanded. Which Yi Xiong? About 1.8 meters tall, wearing glasses. He is your elementary school classmate. The classmate at the wedding? You must be joking. Maybe one of your friends is playing a prank on you. Xiao Fangfang's face darkened as she recalled the encounter in the elevator. Suddenly, she realized, Sini, we've encountered a scammer. Yang Sini immediately furrowed her brow. If he's just freeloading, that's one thing, but I'm worried he might have other intentions, Yang Sini said, thinking carefully. I'll send 2 security guards to find him. We need to make sure he doesn't disturb the guests. I'll find him and make sure his mother won't recognize him. Xiao Fangfang said angrily. The first time she had ever felt attracted to a man, and he turned out to be a fraud. It made her feel incredibly uncomfortable. Chapter 0002, Performance. On the 7th floor, inside a private room. Fishbone soup. Eat a big lobster, it's good for vitality. You've probably never had this, it's authentic sea grouper, tastes amazing. Yi Xiong quickly spun his chopsticks, and in just a moment, Wang Tong's bowl was full. Around them, others stared intently, their eyes filled with disdain at the sight of these 2 gluttonous souls. Brother Xiong, I can serve myself, you eat too. Wang Tong said awkwardly. I've eaten a lot before, Yi Xiong didn't care about the looks from those around him. After all, he was just here for a meal and would be gone soon, who cares if anyone knows him? Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Are you full? Yi Xiong asked. So full. Let us go. Yi Xiong stood up, pulling Wang Tong up without saying a word and heading towards the door. As soon as they stepped out, they spotted Xiao Fangfang approaching with 2 security guards. Brother Xiong, that beautiful lady. Wang Tong pointed at Xiao Fangfang and shouted. Get out of here, quickly. Xiong urgently called. Why leave? Aren't we watching their wedding? Wang Tong asked in confusion. If you don't run now, they'll catch you and beat you up, Xiong said seriously, whispering into his ear, I don't even know Yansini. Your sister, I'll settle this with you later. Wang Tong, now understanding the situation, did a dramatic spin and ran off in panic. You brat, running pretty fast. Facing Xiao Fangfang, Xiong gracefully placed 2 fingers to his lips and blew her a charming kiss, then quickly made his way upstairs. Grab him. If not, you won't need to come back to work tomorrow. Xiao Fangfang was furious. Not only was this guy freeloading, but he also dared to blow her a kiss. He was truly asking for trouble. The 2 security guards quickly chased him up the stairs. This was about their livelihood, so they had no choice but to give their all. Below the 10th floor of the Oriental Grand Hotel, it was mostly for dining and karaoke rooms, while above the 11th floor were guest rooms. Xiong hurried to the 11th floor, took out his Apple 6 phone, and placed it at the magnetic card reader of the first room. The screen flickered continuously, then there was a light beep. Low-level sensor. Xiong muttered. He pushed the door open and quickly entered. The 2 security guards had no idea Xiong would enter a room. After searching around, they found nothing and proceeded to chase him up to the 12th floor. As the footsteps faded, Xiong prepared to leave, but suddenly he noticed a voluptuous woman storming towards him. Wasn't it Xiao Fangfang? Xiao Fangfang was momentarily stunned when she saw Xiong, ready to curse him out. Xiong quickly covered her mouth, dragged her into the room, and shut the door behind them. He pressed her against the wall, flashed a charming smile, and with utmost politeness, said, Now, you have 2 choices. First, the seduction before killing. Second, killing before seduction. How do you choose? Xiao Fangfang nearly collapsed in shock, tears streaming down her face. She never imagined she'd meet a perverted man like this. She feared she was about to fall into a trap. Heaven help her. Was her beautiful life about to be ruined just like this? She couldn't accept it. Of course, you still have a third choice. This fiery woman couldn't handle even the slightest scare. A little shock had her tears streaming down her face. Stay here quietly, don't make a sound. Once I'm gone, you can come out. Xiao Fangfang desperately nodded. Her life was at stake, so she agreed to anything now. Now that's a good girl. Just as Xiong was about to leave, the door beeped, indicating someone was coming in. Such bad luck. Xiong noticed a nearby wardrobe, grabbed Xiao Fangfang, and hid inside. Just as they squeezed in, the door opened, and the sounds of passion filled the air. Xiong cracked open a gap in the wardrobe and saw a man and woman, already completely naked, engaged in wild, primal behavior on the bed. The woman's moans were loud and passionate, making the scene incredibly intense. Wow, a live performance. Should we watch? Xiong whispered. Xiao Fangfang shook her head frantically, both frightened and embarrassed. She never expected her misfortune to go this far. She thought she could shout for help if anyone came, but the couple that entered seemed like they hadn't seen a woman in years, going straight to it without any prelude. This girl's body's not bad, looks like an E-cup. This position, high difficulty. Hey, what's this move called? Xiong continued commenting as though watching an adult film. The wardrobe was small, and they were pressed close together, with barely enough room to hide. Xiao Fangfang was already feeling extremely uncomfortable. Now, hearing his remarks, it was unbearable. But thinking about what she would see if she left, she gritted her teeth and endured, hoping time would pass quickly and the couple would finish. At that moment, she suddenly noticed a hand on her chest, and her face changed instantly. What do you think you're doing? Could this guy not take it anymore and want to do something inappropriate to her? The space was too tight, so Xiong, who had accidentally placed his hand on her chest, quickly pulled it away and began rummaging around his pants. Xiao Fangfang's face turned pale. This exciting scene would be a shame not to record. Xiong pulled out his phone and began filming. Xiao Fangfang breathed a sigh of relief. She thought he couldn't control himself and was about to do something terrible to her. 5 minutes later, the moans finally stopped, followed by the sounds of clothes being put back on. After tonight, will it be hard to see you again? The woman asked sadly. I'll find time for you, the man said as he dressed. I have to go down now, lots of people are waiting for me. I'm going to take a shower first. With that, the man left, and the woman went into the bathroom. Now or never. Xiong stepped out of the wardrobe, and just as he did, Xiao Fangfang let out a slight cry. Her feet had gone numb from standing in such a small space. Women are such a hassle. Xiong sighed, supporting her as they made their way to the door. Beauty, this is goodbye. Stop. Xiao Fangfang shouted. Only a fool would stop. Xiong quickly dashed out. Xiao Fangfang was secretly amazed. She had great confidence in her appearance, and in such a situation, this guy had managed to resist. A man with such self-control was rare indeed. Was he impotent? If Xiong knew what Xiao Fangfang was thinking, he'd probably lose it. At the elevator, Xiong noticed a young man around 25 years old waiting. It was none other than the man from the room, now dressed neatly, though earlier he had been acting like an animal. Xiong casually glanced at his chest and noticed a red cloth strip hanging from his shirt collar with the words, "Groom," written in gold. This guy was He Haodong, the heir of Haiyang Group and tonight's groom. What a tragedy for Yang Sini. A woman who was pursued by countless men was now faced with a cheating groom, and the betrayal even happened at the wedding. How heartbreaking. Xiong thought about whether he should tell Yang Sini. After thinking it over, he decided against it. They weren't close, and it might just bring trouble. People die every day, some starve, some get framed. Cheating is nothing new. He wasn't a knight in shining armor. Finally found you. Two security guards had circled back and spotted Xiong. They aimed stun guns at him and shouted, "Don't move." Xiong raised his hands. He Haodong gave him a strange look and frowned. What's going on? Young master, this guy came to the banquet to freeload, one security guard said. What should we do with him? The other asked. Break his legs, throw him on the street. He Haodong said indifferently. Are you sure you won't regret it? Xiong's face darkened. For a free meal, breaking someone's legs? Too cruel. Even the triads wouldn't be this vicious. Break his arms too. He Haodong adjusted his collar, not even sparing Xiong a second glance. It was as though Xiong were an insignificant ant, not worth his time. The two security guards moved closer, stun guns aimed at Xiong, and shouted, "You brat, daring to freeload at the Oriental Hotel, prepare to spend your next life in a wheelchair." Xiao Fangfang limped to the elevator and saw two security guards lying on the ground. Xiong stood beside them and asked curiously, what happened to them? Maybe they fell asleep. Xiong clapped his hands. Did you knock them out? Xiao Fangfang asked in shock. The security guards of the Oriental Hotel are all professional veterans. With electric batons, one can beat 3 or 4 ordinary people. If he is really knocked out by the guy in front of him, how strong should he be? I am a gentleman and will not solve problems in a rough way. Xiong smiled, then took out his mobile phone. Show me something. Open the video just recorded and put it in front of her, and moans came from the phone. Pervert, turn it off. Xiao Fangfang turned her face quickly. Forget about watching it. I want you to appreciate the groom's virility in bed. What did you say? When her eyes fell on the video, Xiao Fangfang was immediately ashamed and angry, and even her neck turned red. From childhood to adulthood, when had she ever seen such a thing? It was too disgusting, but she had to watch it so that she could recognize whether it was He Haodong. So this is the expression a woman has when watching this movie. Xiong looked at Xiao Fangfang's blushing face and suddenly found it very interesting. You dog-raised bastard, I will never let you go. Xiao Fangfang grabbed Xiong's phone in her hand, and even didn't take the elevator, and strode down the stairs. My phone. Xiong hurriedly chased after her. He spent more than 6,000 yuan to buy it. It's already this late, my best friend has been bullied like this by another man, you still have the nerve to take the phone back, do you still have a conscience? I can send you the video. It's too late. Don't run so fast, be careful of twisting your ankle. Looking at the high heels on her feet that were as thin as nails, Xiong was really worried about her. What she thought came true, a scream came, and Xiao Fangfang fell to the ground. You stinky crow mouth, will you die if you don't talk nonsense? Xiao Fangfang was in so much pain that tears were about to fall. Seeing that he was still standing there, she shouted, Why are you still standing there? Shall we let him kiss you? Just kiss him, they are already married, do you think they are still innocent? Sini is a religious person and opposes any physical contact before marriage. Before today, Cindy has never been held by his hand. Xiao Fangfang said. This is the best joke I heard today. Yesterday she called me and said she regretted getting married. Believe it or not, come and help me down. Xiao Fangfang urged. It's just a meal. It's not easy for me. Xiong walked over helplessly and helped her downstairs. I'm warning you, don't take advantage of the opportunity. Before she finished speaking, she slapped the claws on her chest and said angrily, Where are you holding your hands? Sorry, I'm a little nearsighted. Xiao Fangfang. Chapter 0003, Acting Cool. In the hall on the 8th floor, the most intense moment was about to arrive. Yang Sini was a devout believer, and after the banquet, she had arranged a Western-style ceremony with a pastor she had specially invited to witness the couple's vows on stage. Mr. He Haodong, do you take this beautiful, gentle, virtuous, and intelligent woman beside you to be your wife? In the days to come, whether she is poor or rich, sick or healthy, will you remain loyal to her, loving her, until you leave this world? The pastor asked, holding a book. I do. He Haodong answered without hesitation. Miss Yang Sini, do you take this handsome, charming, kind-hearted, and talented young man beside you as your husband? At that moment, Yang Sini sat on the stage, wearing a wedding dress, as stunning as an ice-cold snow lotus, the focus of everyone's attention. However, she fell silent. After a long pause, she reluctantly said, I do. Hold on. From the crowd, Xiao Fangfang stepped forward, holding a phone. She limped up to the stage. Fangfang, what's wrong? Yang Sini asked in confusion. Sini, I have something to show you. Xiao Fangfang glared at He Haodong and opened the video. This was from half an hour ago. To avoid embarrassment, Xiao Fangfang muted the sound. Yang Sini took the phone, looked at it for a moment, and her face immediately turned pale. Sini, what's wrong? He Haodong asked in confusion. Slap. A loud slap echoed through the hall as Yang Sini slapped He Haodong across the face. The crowd was stunned, not knowing what had just happened. He Haodong, what did I do wrong? He covered his face, asking in guilt. Yang Sini grabbed the phone and threw it at He Haodong. He lowered his head to dodge it. The phone crashed to the ground. My phone. Xiong pushed his way through the crowd, picked up the broken phone, and made a mournful face. Is it so hard just to eat a free meal? He muttered. 1 hour later, Yang's villa. Yang Sini locked herself in her room and refused to see anyone except Xiao Fangfang. If it weren't for Xiao Fangfang accompanying her inside, Yang Sini's father, Yang Dinghua, would have already broken down the door. Even now, Yang Dinghua had no idea what had happened. He called He Haodong to ask, but he refused to say anything. Sini, don't be sad, at least you didn't lose anything, Xiao Fangfang comforted. Yang Sini calmed down and even felt a sense of relief. She had been under so much pressure to get married that she had thought no man was better than He Haodong, so she had agreed. Fangfang, how did you get this video? Xiao Fangfang recalled the scene of them hiding in the closet, and her face instantly flushed with embarrassment. This isn't my phone, it's that bastard's. Xiong. Yes, that imposter. He looks all respectable, but he goes around eating free meals. It's driving me crazy, Xiao Fangfang cursed. Yang Sini couldn't help but laugh. It had been so long since she had seen her best friend so upset over a man. Xiao Fangfang then began to tell the story about Xiong, and Yang Sini couldn't stop laughing. The tension from the wedding quickly disappeared. This guy is unbelievable. I'm just curious, how did he get into their hotel room? Given He Haodong's style, he must have booked the room in advance. How did that guy get in without a keycard? Xiao Fangfang was also puzzled by this. By the way, the 2 security guards you sent to me, they both fainted. That guy said they fell asleep. Those 2 were retired soldiers. How could they have fallen asleep? Yang Sini grew even more suspicious. Hearing you say this, I really want to meet this guy. Beauty, we really have a telepathic connection. Just then, someone walked in from the balcony. It was none other than Xiong. How did you get in? Both women stared in shock at Xiong, who appeared as if he had dropped from the sky, looking completely unfazed. I climbed up. This is the 5th floor, Yang Sini said in disbelief. Xiong looked at his dirty hands and asked, by the way, where's the bathroom? Xiao Fangfang pointed in the direction of the bathroom, still dazed. After a while, Xiong came out of the bathroom and sat down on the sofa. Now, let us talk about the phone compensation. You climbed up to the 5th floor just for a broken phone. Xiao Fangfang was nearly driven mad. The climbing part, I'll count as part of the labor fee, Xiong said seriously. The price of the phone is 6,700. I've used it for 2 months and developed feelings for it. Let us calculate the emotional distress fee at 50 a day. For 60 days, that's 3,000. Plus, I got my clothes dirty climbing up, so you'll pay me 300 for that. 100,000, and we're good. As for the round-trip transportation, I won't charge for that. How will you pay? Xiao Fangfang was on the verge of exploding. Was this guy even human? He climbed 5 stories just to collect a debt for a phone. How ridiculous could this get? Yang Sini, however, looked at him with interest and smiled. 100,000, no problem. She walked to the desk, pulled out a thick stack of cash, and placed it on the table. Count it. Is it enough? Miss Yang is really generous, unlike some shameless dogs. Say that again. Xiao Fangfang suddenly stood up. The truth only needs to be said once. Whoosh! A cushion flew toward him. Xiong slapped it away, sending it flying back, causing Xiao Fangfang to fall onto the sofa, her legs flying up. Pink isn't your color. You're more suited to black, Xiong said with a sly smile, glancing at the glimpse of her underwear exposed by the skirt. He held the stack of cash by one end, letting the other end flutter like a peacock's tail. I don't like to take advantage. Xiong pulled 2 bills from the stack, placed them on the table, and then leapt out of the window. I'll kill you. Xiao Fangfang sat up from the floor, only to find that Xiong was already gone. Ho, where did that bastard go? He left. Why didn't you stop him? Even the 10+ security guards at the villa couldn't stop him, and dozens of cameras didn't spot him. How could I stop him? Yang Sini picked up the 2 bills and fell into thought. She had heard of their peacock feather money-counting trick, but this was the first time she had seen it in action. Bastard, no matter where you go, I will find you. Xiao Fangfang screamed in frustration. In August, in the city of Jiangnan, the weather was cool, perfect for starting work. Xiong wore a pair of heavily patched jeans and a sky blue work uniform with "Future New City" written on the back. He mounted his battered second-hand motorcycle, which emitted thick black smoke as it roared into action. Chapter 000 for Hot Beauty. Police comrade, be careful of accidental discharge. Xiong pointed the gun at her and warned her in a low voice. Luo Weiwei took a look at the guy in tattered clothes, who looked like a construction worker, and was secretly surprised. When ordinary people see a policeman, they all tremble with fear like a mouse seeing a cat. But this guy in front of me doesn't look nervous at all. Put your hands on your head, squat on the ground and be quiet. Luo Weiwei ordered. Xiong squatted on the ground obediently. Why would you drive over someone else's car? Are you trying to be cool? Comrade police officer. Squat down. Who told you to stand up? Luo Weiwei shouted angrily. This girl is having her period, why is she so popular? Xiong squatted on the ground again, looked up, and saw a semicircle. From this angle, he could see the proud and upright figure of the female police officer. 2 words to describe it, so big. Comrade officer, you didn't hear how fiercely that woman cursed me just now. She called me a lousy construction worker and said that even if she sold me, she couldn't afford to pay for her car. I got nervous and had to run away. It's nothing for her to scold me, because I'm just an ordinary citizen. She even scolded you police officers, saying that your police station is their backyard. Dozens of police officers will come in a minute with just 1 phone call. Killing me is like killing an ant. Do you think I can't run away? Xiong looked pitiful, his voice was heavy and he almost cried. She really said that. If I lie to you, God will punish my wife for running away with another man. Xiong raised his hand and swore to the sky. Anyway, he didn't have a wife. Even if she said that, there is no need to run over other people's cars. The impact will be so bad. Luo Weiwei softened her voice. I was wrong. I hated the rich and my bad nature was too strong. Police comrade, please let me go this time. Xiong looked up at her face with a sincere expression. This dress is big enough, but it is still so straight. How big must it be? I wonder if it will shake when I run. Xiong continued to look up. ID card, driver's license. No. You didn't bring any. People in our line of work basically don't bring anything with them. When we work, our bodies get soaked, even our underwear. Shut up, why are you talking so much nonsense? Faced with such a humble guy, Luo Weiwei was too lazy to care about him and directly called the traffic police to let them handle it. I'm Luo Weiwei. There's a traffic offender here. Send someone to take the person and the car away. After finishing the call, Luo Weiwei stood there waiting quietly. A criminal investigator like her would not bother with such trivial matters. At this time, the phone rang and Luo Weiwei picked up it. Sister Wei, the woman confessed. She admitted to trafficking children. There was a loud voice on the other end of the microphone. Great, what about that asshole? He was just released on bail by his lawyer, and the woman refused to reveal who was behind it. I'll be right back. Luo Weiwei hung up the phone, took out a pair of handcuffs from her pocket, dragged Xiong to a billboard, and handcuffed him to a height of one person. Stay here, my colleague will be here soon. Luo Weiwei put the key on the front of Xiong's car and drove away. Xiaozhong, I have something to go back to the police station. I have already handcuffed that guy, and the keys are on the front of his car. After Luo Weiwei left, Xiong showed a hint of mockery on his face, put his hands up and raised his feet to the sky. A thin wire fell from his trouser pocket to the ground. After it fell, he pinched the wire with his right toes and threw it lightly into his hand. In less than a minute, the handcuffs were opened. Oh, I'm late again. I'm afraid Aunt Bao will scold me again. As soon as Luo Weiwei returned to the bureau, the phone rang. Sister Wei, that guy escaped. Xiaozhong said on the other end of the phone. I clearly handcuffed him. Did someone give him the key? Luo Weiwei asked curiously. I asked the witnesses and he used a piece of wire to open the handcuffs. Luo Weiwei was stunned for a moment. She originally thought that riding a motorcycle to fly up from the rear of a car was not easy enough, but now he was using wire to unlock it. Who on earth was this guy? After I've dealt with things here, I'll bring him back. Luo Weiwei said, and then hung up the phone. When he returned to the construction site, it was almost 9 o'clock. Xiong sneaked into the site and suddenly heard a roar. Xiong, stop right there. The 40-year-old supervisor, Aunt Bao, stood with her hands on her waist, looking as fierce as a landlord in a movie. She pointed at Xiong and yelled, look at the time now. Do you still want to work here? Xiong turned around, and instantly his face lit up with a smile. Don't give me that crap. No matter what you say today, I won't be fooled by you again. Aunt Bao, who has suffered a lot, made this statement in advance. He has made all kinds of excuses, such as cold and fever, traffic jam, collision with others, and broken alarm clock. Aunt Bao has long been numb to it. Auntie, I won't make excuses today. You can deduct my wages as you like, but there is something I have wanted to tell you for a long time. Xiong walked over and said seriously, I don't think you need to work so hard. You have money and your son is grown up, so why don't you enjoy your life? Look at your skin, it's worse than before. Aren't you worried that your husband will get tired of you and cheat on you one day? You're cursing me. I'll beat you to death. Antoine rushed over angrily, waving her iron fist. Xiong was so scared that he ran away. Have I really become uglier? Aunt Bao touched her face and became very worried. Go to the construction site, put on a safety helmet, and it's another day of work. Brother Xiong, I'm glad you're okay. Wang Tong walked over and asked. Last night, he was so worried that he couldn't sleep well, fearing that something had happened to Xiong and that his cell phone was unreachable. Your brother Xiong has 9 lives, so it won't be easy for anything to happen to him. Xiong said with a smile. How did last night end? It's over. The marriage didn't take place. Real. If you don't believe me, read today's newspaper. Brother Xiong, don't do such risky things for me next time. Eating a big meal won't make you gain a few pounds. Wang Tong said. I'd love to. Xiong smiled, revealing a row of white front teeth. The two of them started a new day's work by chatting while moving bricks. 3 days later, in a villa in the city. Waste. He Haodong slapped the subordinate in front of him hard in the face and shouted angrily, we have been looking for several days and can't even find a single person. What do we need you for? The man who was slapped was called Lu Bao, the leader of a gang called the Northwest Gang in Jiangnan City. He had more than 30 people under him and had his own spies in all walks of life. Most of these people work for some large conglomerates, like Lu Bao, who mainly depends on the He family for survival. Young master, we have checked every industry and profession in the city, but we haven't seen this guy. Lu Bao said. Keep investigating, and find him at all costs. He Hadong punched the table, gritting his teeth in hatred. I can't get rid of the hatred in my heart unless I skin him alive. Where is that woman Xiao Fangfang? Do you want me to find someone to get her? Lu Bao asked. Don't mess with her for now. If she shows up, Yang Sini will definitely suspect me, and then there will be no way to save the situation. Young master, do you think Yang Sini will change her mind? As long as I insist that the video is photoshopped, there is a chance, so the most important thing now is to find that guy and make him admit it. Young master, give me a few more days, and I will definitely find him. Tell your men to do their job well. If they can't handle this matter well, tell them to go back to the Northwest. Jiangnan City Public Security Bureau, Criminal Investigation Brigade Office. Luo Weiwei sat in the office, looking through various documents. At this time, a tall figure walked into the office. Hello, Deputy Chief. A police officer beside Luo Weiwei quickly stood up and said, I'll pour a glass of water for the Deputy Chief. Luo Weiwei turned around and glanced at the Deputy Director, pretending she didn't see him. Who told you to go back to the criminal investigation team without permission? Luo Guizhong said angrily. Su Yueger changed her confession and admitted to trafficking children. Wang Jianjun is a very serious suspect. So what if they are suspected? For criminals with high IQ like them, there is no way to convict them without solid evidence. Are we just going to let him get away with it? Luo Weiwei said unwillingly. Luo Guizhong threw a stack of information in front of her and said, a child's body was found in the south of the city, and the internal organs were missing. This is very likely a major organ trafficking case. The child trafficking case is just a cover-up to divert the police's attention. Luo Weiwei picked up the information, took a look at it, and her face was filled with shock. If it involves organ trafficking, this is definitely a very large gang. There are at least dozens of people involved, all of whom are extremely vicious. You should withdraw from this case and stop investigating. This is my case, absolutely not. I have submitted the application. In a few days, I will allow you to study at the Provincial Military Academy. Luo Weiwei stared at her father with sharp eyes and said coldly, Luo Guizhong, I will never be like a turtle who hides away when encountering big things. I don't want to be looked down upon by others all my life. That's an order. Even if I stop being a police officer, I still have to investigate this case. After saying that, Luo Weiwei left the office angrily, leaving Luo Guizhong with a gloomy face. Xiao Zhao, what about the motorcycle license plate number that I asked you to check? After leaving the police station, Luo Weiwei directly called her colleague Xiao Zhao from the Transportation Bureau. Sister Wei, I checked and it's a fake license plate car. This bastard is so cunning. Luo Weiwei hung up the phone and murmured, I just don't believe I can't find you, future new city, do you think I'm blind? She drove away on her sports motorcycle. Chapter 0005 Big Trouble. The future new city is welcoming a major event today. The president of Chiao Group came to inspect the construction of the building. Everyone in the engineering department was very nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. From the newspapers published a few days ago, almost everyone knew that the Yang He marriage had failed. At this critical moment, the president came to inspect, and no one was not panicked. It's normal to get fired if you're not careful. The future new city has already notified the construction site, asking them to pay attention to safety and be careful about their words and actions, and whoever makes a mistake will be fired. Yang Sini, wearing sweatpants, with her hair tied up and sunglasses, came out of the car and immediately attracted everyone's attention. She stood among the crowd like a proud swan, attracting everyone's attention. President Yang, welcome. Xia Qiu, director of the engineering department, strode over with a group of engineers. Give me a safety helmet. Yang Sini ordered. Someone immediately brought over a new safety helmet. Yang Sini put it on and walked towards the construction site. At this time, the phone rang. Mr. Yang, I have found out that He Hadong has sent a large number of people to look for the whereabouts of that guy named Xiong. The group security manager said over there. Have you found anything? Not yet. Keep investigating. We must find Xiong before them. Yang Sini ordered. After hanging up the phone, Yang Sini thought of the mysterious and omnipotent man again. Who is he, what job does he do, and why is he helping me? Ever since that night, he seemed to have disappeared. Even the Yang group and the He group, two of the largest families in Jiangnan City, couldn't find him. It was as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth. CEO, should we look at the townhouses first, or the villas? Let us look at the townhouse first. The future new city is a very promising project. The Yang Group has invested no less than 3 billion yuan in this phase. It is one of the largest real estate projects in the city and one of the most important industries of the Yang Group at this stage. On the road outside the townhouse, Xiong was wearing worn rubber shoes and pulling a small cart full of bricks. The thin Wang Tong was sitting on the cart, and the two of them were heading towards the construction site. Brother Xiong, do you know why Yang Sini broke off the engagement that night? Because when Xiong was married, he was having an affair with another woman in the upstairs room. TSK, you make it sound like the truth. Wang Tong raised his finger. Why don't you believe me every time I tell you the truth? Xiong sighed and continued, later, I went to Yang Sini's villa and sat for a while, chatting with the two beauties in the same room. You're almost blowing your own trumpet, Wang Tong said in frustration. The two of them walked and talked, and soon arrived at the villa. Xiong was sharp-eyed and noticed a graceful female police officer standing there, talking to Aunt Bao. Oh my God! He recognized the policewoman at a glance as the senior police officer who handcuffed him to the billboard that day. I'm going to pee. Xiong lowered his hat and slipped away to the side. As soon as I entered the construction site, my cell phone rang. It was Aunt Bao calling. The ghost is still there. He quickly turned his phone to silent mode and slipped into the construction site. Where's Xiong? Aunt Bao saw Wang Tong coming over and asked curiously, weren't you guys supposed to be in a group today? Why are you the only one here? Brother Xiong went to pee. Wang Tong glanced at Luo Weiwei beside him and his eyes lit up. She has a plump body, delicate features, and very long eyelashes. Her eyes look like a pool of autumn water and are particularly charming. With this police uniform, she looks much better than the uniformed beauties in the island country's blockbusters. When did he go? A few minutes ago. Luo Weiwei knew she had found the right person, and said sternly, I give you 5 minutes to catch him, otherwise I will hold you accountable. What did Xiong do wrong? Aunt Bao asked weakly. Rape. Thinking of that guy's appearance, Luo Weiwei got angry, so she decided to scare them, otherwise they wouldn't try their best to find him. Comrade police, maybe you made a mistake. Brother Xiong is not that kind of person. Wang Tong said anxiously. If he doesn't do anything bad, will he run away when he sees me? Luo Weiwei asked back. I'll help you get him back, Wang Tong said, and ran away. After Aunt Bao entered the construction site, she shouted loudly, everyone stop working and find Xiong. He is in big trouble. Xiong was huddled next to the toilet, watching a Japanese blockbuster on his cell phone. After the phone rang several times, he turned off the signal. A group of workers came over, pointed at him and shouted, there, catch him. Xiong, I didn't expect you to be such a person. We are really blind. You don't even spare a 50-year-old woman, are you still human? There are several police cars waiting outside, go and turn yourself in. Don't talk so much to him, just arrest him first, beat him up and hand him over to the police. A group of people rushed over aggressively. Xiong was so scared that he thought these guys were crazy. They just ran over a car. When did he rape the old woman? At this moment, the best strategy is to run away, otherwise these guys will beat him into a pig's head. With his hands on the wall, Xiong climbed over the wall and escaped. Be there, don't let him get away. I'll go. Xiong turned left and walked to a pile of cement. A figure jumped out from it and rushed towards him. I didn't rape your sister, is there any need to fight so hard? He took a light step and dodged the pounce. The second one pounced on him again, looking as if he was not afraid of death. Nima, we can't stay here anymore. Xiong passed through numerous obstacles and ran quickly towards the door. Chase him, don't let him escape. Dozens of construction workers followed behind, the momentum was so magnificent. Luo Weiwei stood at the gate of the construction site, drinking water and watching with interest Xiong's desperate escape while being chased by dozens of construction workers. The strange thing is that after more than 10 minutes, Xiong didn't beat anyone, and dozens of people couldn't catch him. This guy is more cunning than a loach. The entire construction site was instantly thrown into chaos. Xiao took Yang Sini to the construction site, introducing things as they walked. President, our construction workers are all very qualified and have been specially screened. You will see them working diligently and conscientiously. Before he could finish his words, Xiao was dumbfounded. Turning the corner, what a sight it is! Dozens of construction workers surrounded the construction site and chased another construction worker. The whole scene was heated and noisy. Is this the high-quality team you mentioned? Yang Sini frowned. Xiao's forehead was sweating. He quickly took out his phone and called Aunt Bao, shouting angrily, Mr. Bao, what is going on at the construction site? What, rape? After hanging up the phone, Xiao said weakly, President, a construction worker committed rape, and the workers are catching him. What's going on? Yang Sini frowned. Officer Luo is over there, why don't we go ask him? The group soon arrived at the construction site, where a heroic female police officer stood, holding her stomach and laughing wildly. Luo Weiwei saw two workers rushing towards Xiong at the same time, but Xiong dodged them and their heads hit each other. They covered their heads and screamed. Officer Luo, what happened? Xiao walked over and asked. Bring someone back for questioning. Luo Weiwei stopped laughing and pointed at Xiong in the field, saying, please bring him here. Stop it all. Xiao walked over, stopped everyone, pointed at Xiong and said, you, come here. Xiong sighed, knowing that he couldn't escape today, so he had to follow him obediently and walked over. Comrade police, we meet again. Xiong said embarrassedly. Luo Weiwei hugged her chest and walked around him. Seeing that he was neither blushing nor out of breath, she was amazed. You are quite capable. Even dozens of people can't catch you. Luo Weiwei said with a smile. It's about to burst. Xiong glanced at the weapon on her arm and muttered. What did you say? Luo Weiwei raised her eyebrows. I said that I've moved a lot of bricks, so I'm naturally more flexible. Xiong said, and pulled out a pair of dirty handcuffs from his belt, handed them over, and said with a smile, return it to its original owner. Luo Weiwei took it, handcuffed his hands tightly, and pointed at her motorcycle, let's go. Xiong walked towards her car obediently, and suddenly found a group of people walking towards him. The leader was Yang Sini, the president of Sini Group. He quickly lowered his head, as it would be troublesome if he was recognized. He is not afraid of Yang Sini, but her friend Xia Fangfang is not someone who can be easily messed with. Yang Sini's eyes fell on him and she found that he had his head drooped, so her face couldn't be seen clearly, but he looked quite tall. Comrade police, what crime did this employee commit? After all, he was an employee of the company, so Yang Sini asked. Driving a motorcycle to run over other people's cars shows hatred of the rich. Luo Weiwei said. Not rape. If it was rape, I would have shot him long ago, said Luo Weiwei. Let's follow the law. Yang Sini glanced at the drooping Xiong and felt that he looked familiar. She suddenly said, raise your head. Xiong acted as if he didn't hear anything and continued walking forward with his head lowered. The president asked you to lift it up, did you hear me? Xiao said angrily. Xiong seemed to be too embarrassed to face anyone, and instead lowered his head even lower. Yang Sini became suspicious, a figure flashed through her mind, and she suddenly said, thank you for that night. You're welcome. It's nothing. Xiong waved his hand coolly, only to realize he had been fooled the next moment. Helplessly, he had to raise his head and grinned, Boss Yarn, we meet again. Yang Sini stared at the grey-haired guy for a full half-minute before she reacted. If it weren't for his signature rogue smile, she would have thought she had recognized the wrong person. This was really the guy that night. How is that possible? The guy that night was wearing all branded clothes and exuding a charming aura. He was tall, rich and handsome. What about the guy in front of me? Puff. Yang Sini couldn't hold back her laughter any longer. No wonder the people from the Yang and He families couldn't find him after searching everywhere. Who would have believed that this guy was actually a construction worker hiding in the construction site? The people around looked at each other in surprise. They didn't expect that President Yang would know this construction worker, and from the tone of her voice, it seemed that Xiong had helped her before. "We had a hard time looking for you." Yang Sini showed a rare smile. Now he believed what the police said. This guy was even capable of climbing up to the 5th floor and breaking into a house to collect debts. Compared to this, driving a motorcycle over a car didn't seem like a big deal. "Whatever compensation he has to pay for the car he crushed will be on me. Let him go first," Yang Sini suddenly said. These words instantly caused a huge uproar, and everyone's eyes fell on Xiong, as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 0006 Already Dead. Luo Weiwei's eyes showed surprise. She had heard of Yang Sini's name. She was the president of Sini Group. There were countless people who wanted to curry favor with her, but she had never even looked at them. She didn't expect that she knew the porter and wanted to help him solve the problem. This made her even more curious about Xiong. "Mr. Yang, I just took him back to assist in the investigation," Luo Weiwei said politely. Yang Sini's eyes fell on Xiong, and then she said, "Okay, Xiong, you should cooperate with the police. What are you still standing there for? Let's go," Luo Weiwei shouted. "It's just a BMW that was run over. Mr. Yang has promised to compensate me. Why are you shouting so loudly?" Xiong said unhappily. "You dare to talk back now that someone is backing you up?" Luo Weiwei was angry. "How dare I offend the black society?" Xiong shrugged. "He is the first one who dares to call the police a gang member." Luo Weiwei took him to the motorcycle, sat on it, lifted up her slender black lace thighs, looked down at him, and said coldly like a queen, "I ask you questions and you answer them. If you don't cooperate, you should know the consequences. Take out your ID first." Xiong pulled out his ID card from his back pocket and handed it over. After looking at the ID card over and over again, Luo Weiwei finally confirmed that it was a fake ID card and there was no chip in it. This guy actually dared to give a fake ID card in front of the police. "Congratulations, you have one more charge, forgery of identity." Luo Weiwei knocked the ID card on his head several times. "If you knock again, he'll get angry." Xiong dodged a few steps. "Fuck, you still dare to challenge me, right? Do you want to add another charge of assaulting a police officer?" Luo Wei jumped out of the car, walked up to her, and said coldly, "You want to fight, right? Come on." After saying this, he deliberately puffed out his chest. Xiong glanced at her erection, which could not be covered by the loose police uniform, and he almost took off his clothes. Pursing his lips, he pulled out another ID card from his jeans and handed it over. Luo Weiwei took it in confusion, only to see that this ID card was exactly the same as the fake one, even the address, name and ID number were exactly the same, and it was a real ID card. He carried 2 ID cards, exactly the same, one real and one fake. What on earth was he trying to do? "I took out the wrong ID just now. I lost my previous ID card. It takes too long to get a temporary ID card. I need it urgently for work, so I had to make an identical one. The police can go back and check. I am a law-abiding citizen and I don't have any criminal record. Go to the dormitory, change into clean clothes, and come back to the police station with me." Luo Weiwei decided to take this guy back first. This guy was full of mystery and maybe a big case could be solved by interrogating him. "Police beauty. You have 10 minutes to shower and change clothes. If you exceed the time limit, you will be punished as an obstruction of construction work." Luo Weiwei took out her phone, checked the time, and said, "Start the countdown." "You're so cruel." Xiong ran back to the rental house, took a shower, quickly changed into a clean set of clothes, and appeared in front of her on time. A plaid top, jeans full of holes, and a pair of sneakers that haven't been washed in who knows how long. These are clearly the attire of a gangster. Doesn't this guy have any decent clothes? Luo Weiwei got on the motorcycle and shouted, "If you dare to touch me, you know the consequences, get on board." Xiong sat down obediently, smelling the woman's fragrance. He couldn't help but want to hold her waist with both hands, but thinking of the treatment he would receive in the police station, he forced himself to hold back. Impulse is the devil, and impulse is the devil. The sports car roared out, and the curve of her back was very beautiful. Her driving style looked cold but also had a kind of heart-moving femininity. Xiong suddenly found a mark on her back, and knew it was the bra strap. Because she leaned forward while driving, her chest dropped, and the mark on her back became more obvious. He was really worried that if she continued like this, the strap would break. How big is this? Suddenly, the car braked suddenly. Xiong was caught off guard and bumped hard into her back. His hands instinctively held onto her plump breasts. Let go. Luo Weiwei was almost angry to death. She had no time to think because she was attacked. A car next to her suddenly turned right and forced her car to stop. Wow, there's a killer behind us. Xiong hugged Luo Weiwei tightly like a frightened child, his hands climbing up to her breasts, holding on tightly as if he had found a life-saving straw. Thanks to Xiong's reminder, Luo Weiwei saw the two motorcyclists in the rearview mirror and slowly pulled out their silencer guns. The car spun on the spot, and Luo Weiwei used the motorcycle to make a blind spot and roared away. Chirp chirp. Bullets kept firing from behind, two motorcycles were chasing closely, and the car also got on track to hunt down Luo Weiwei. Beautiful policewoman, can you please put me down? I don't want to die yet. Xiong tightly grasped the thing in his hand, his voice changed with fear, and he whimpered, I have old people and young children to take care of, and 4 or 5 mouths waiting for me to feed. If you don't want to die, shut up. Luo Weiwei was so focused on escaping at the moment that she didn't even notice that her chest was being attacked by a pair of big hands. It was not until she felt something gently pinching her chest that she realized the truth and was almost mad with anger. But this guy kept pinching and screaming, as if he was extremely frightened, so she didn't know whether it was an instinctive reaction from being too frightened or he was deliberately taking advantage of her. Either way, it's unforgivable. Who are you holding on to? Let go. Luo Weiwei yelled. Xiong seemed to have just reacted and quickly hugged his slender waist. There was not a trace of fat in his hands and it felt great. Big breasts and thin waist, this figure is amazing. Their whole road was in chaos, some car owners were dodging, and traffic was in a state of chaos. The killers chased for a while, but when they realized they couldn't kill Luo Weiwei, they turned into a small alley and disappeared. Luo Weiwei stopped the car and called the police on the road. The situation this time is very serious. The other party actually sent a car and 2 motorcycles to kill her. It is very likely related to the case she is investigating now. No wonder her father asked her to withdraw from the case. Obviously, there is a behemoth behind this case, and her progress has threatened some people. Luo Weiwei's mind was in a mess. She had escaped death and it took her a long time to come to her senses. When she got out of the car, she found that her waist was tightly hugged and the two of them were pressed tightly together. It was the first time that she was hugged by a man, and a poor construction worker at that. Luo Weiwei was so angry that she was shaking all over. She quickly pulled out the dagger from her foot and stabbed at his hand that was hugging her. Finally safe. Xiong loosened his hand and dodged the knife. After getting out of the car, he patted his chest and said, "It feels so good to be alive." Luo Weiwei was full of confusion. This guy was too lucky. Just when she wanted to teach him a lesson, he let go. Did he know? And just now, how did he know that the 2 motorcyclists were the killers? When he was talking, they hadn't even drawn their guns. Fortunately, he reminded me, otherwise I would have been dead. Xiong then noticed the dagger in Luo Weiwei's hand and shouted, "What do you want to do? I'm timid, don't scare me. You've touched me and grabbed me. Do you think I will keep your hands?" Luo Weiwei waved the dagger in her hand. "Comrade police, it's unfair. Under the circumstances just now, could I not hold you tightly?" Xiong stepped back step by step, and said pitifully, "Please, I have old people and young children to feed, 4 mouths to feed." "Try to take another step back," Luo Weiwei said coldly. "Oh no, the killer is here again." Xiong pointed behind her and shouted. Luo Weiwei instinctively drew her gun and squatted, pointing behind her, but there was no trace of the killer. Realizing she had been tricked, she quickly turned around, but saw nothing in front of her, with Xiong no longer visible. This bastard ran away too fast. Luo Weiwei stamped her feet fiercely. She really wanted to chase him and settle the score with him, but now the most important thing for her was to investigate the killer. She couldn't care about anything else. In the coffee shop next door, Xiong went into the bathroom, urinated, and then left through the back door. This woman has a nice figure and feels great. Xiong pinched his fingers, recalling the feeling just now. If such a high-quality policewoman was killed, wouldn't it be a waste? Xiong pondered whether he should help her, but after thinking it over, he decided not to. He is different now. Walking through the coffee shop, I suddenly saw a familiar figure. She was a beautiful woman who was extremely cold and arrogant. She was over 1.7 meters tall, wearing sunglasses and a black windbreaker. Her short hair made her look decisive and swift. She just sat there quietly, as if she had known that Xiong would pass by this cafe. Xiong walked over, sat opposite her, took the coffee in front of her and drank it all in one gulp. The beautiful woman in the black cape didn't say anything, as if she had known his character for a long time. After he finished his coffee, she asked calmly, "When will you return to the team?" Xiong stared at her enchanting face closely, and his glib words disappeared, replaced by a playful expression, "You know it's impossible. I admit that it was a mistake made by the superiors that caused the annihilation of your team members, but you are still alive, right? Do you think I look alive now?" Xiong stood up, his eyes full of ferocity, and pointed at his heart. "Here, I'm dead." The beautiful woman in black stared at him intently through her sunglasses and didn't speak for a long time. She saw tears in his eyes, which was rare. It was the first time Phoenix saw the tears of the Grim Reaper in their 6 years of cooperation. "I worked as a porter for half a year, a lumberjack for half a year, and a builder for half a year, playing around in the world. Is this what I have learned?" Phoenix asked, lowering his head. "That's my business, it has nothing to do with you." Zhao Xiong said, then stood up and said coldly, "Go back and tell Long Qinya that the god of death is dead. Thank you for the coffee, and we'll never see each other again." Chapter 0007 I Am Her Man. Walking out of the coffee shop, Xiong felt heavy-hearted again. Scenes from the past came to my mind again. It had been more than a year and I had forgotten many things. But now I realized that they were just temporarily put in a corner and I didn't think about them intentionally. Once I thought about them, they became even more overwhelming. He took out a worn photo from his clothes, which showed 6 people. Of the 6 most mysterious soldiers in China's team, a killing machine, he is the only one left alive. Once folded hands together. We said we would live and die together. We promised that no one will be sacrificed. However, all of this was ruined by a wrong decision that destroyed the entire team. You throw away all the responsibilities with just one sentence, bullshit. Xiong cursed, put the photo into his clothes, and strode away. The warm sunshine shining on his body made him feel as if he was in another world. After leaving that organization, hadn't he been living a life as if he was in another world every day? "Hi." Xiong extended his hand and greeted 2 beautiful passers-by. "Nerve." The 2 beauties cursed and moved away. Xiong was not embarrassed at all and staggered away. Inside the coffee shop, Phoenix took off his sunglasses, looked through the floor-to-ceiling window at the cynical figure outside, and felt inexplicably sad. After a while, she took out her phone and dialed it, saying calmly, "Commander, Death refuses to return to the team. Spring is the season of mating. Summer is the season for bikinis. Autumn is a romantic season." Xiong wondered if he should have a good love relationship in this season of falling leaves. After walking around the streets all day, I lazily returned to the dormitory at the construction site in the evening. At the dormitory door, a tall girl wearing a black long skirt and curved glasses, who looked very attractive, was standing there waiting. Who else could it be but Josephine Xiao? "You're really haunting me. I didn't force anything on you, is there any need for you to chase me so closely?" Xiong walked over lazily and pretended to be surprised and said, "Hey, isn't this Miss Xiao? What brings you here?" Seeing Xiong in front of her, Xiao Fangfang simply couldn't connect him with the guy from that night. The 2 men's temperaments were too different. If Xiong was a very polite gentleman that night, then now Xiong is just a real gangster. When Yang Sini told her at first, she didn't quite believe it, but now it seems to be true. "I'm here to settle the score with you." Xiao Fangfang couldn't help but utter these words. "What else do we have to settle?" Xiong showed a wicked look on his face, and said calmly, "I didn't scold you or beat you, and it was Boss Yarn who paid for the phone. So, after all the calculations, it seems that I don't owe you any money. You compensate me for mental damage." Xiao Fangfang said without thinking. "Mental damage compensation means that I have affected your spirit." "Oh, I understand. You fell in love with me at first sight." Xiong suddenly realized. Xiao Fangfang swore that she had never seen a man so shameless in her life. He didn't even look at his own identity, a poor construction worker, and she fell in love with him at first sight. After all, Xiao Fangfang also has her own small company. Although she doesn't make much, she can easily make a profit of 200,000 or 300,000 yuan a month. Moreover, she is highly educated and a typical white, rich and beautiful woman. Would a woman like her fall in love with him at first sight? Take a deep breath and hold it in. After a while, Xiao Fangfang suppressed her anger and glared at him. Please look in the mirror before you say that. I'm going to treat you to dinner tonight, do you want to come? Xiong felt bored anyway. Do you think I'll accept that? You just need to answer whether you are going or not. If you don't go, I will invite someone else. Xiong interrupted him, with a tone in his voice that could not be refused. I'll go, but I can choose the place, said Xiao Fangfang. No problem, please wait a moment, I'll go change my clothes first. 10 minutes later, Xiong not only changed his clothes, but also took a shower, and he looked refreshed. Grey trousers and a dark t-shirt make him look a bit heavy and secretive. Compared to the last time he ate for free in the hotel, he looked less gentlemanly and more profound. Was this guy a chameleon in his previous life? The outfit in front of her dazzled Xiao Fangfang's eyes again. She was really curious about what kind of man this was and why she could feel such different temperaments from him. What's more, he is a construction worker. Take your car. Xiong asked. Should I take your seat? Xiao Fangfang rolled her eyes, threw the key to him and said, You open it. Did you know I can drive? I doubt you can even fly a plane. Xiong smiled, walked to the BMW in front of him and got in. Xiao Fangfang's car is a white BMW worth about 500,000 yuan. It should not have been bought for a long time and looks very new on the surface. He shifted gears in a familiar manner, and the BMW seemed to let out a sharp roar and shot out like an arrow. Where? Xiong asked. Let's go to Moon Viewing Villa. Wangyu Villa is a very famous place in Jiangnan City. It provides one-stop services for dining, leisure, and entertainment. Many rich children often gather there. It is a place where upper-class people go. The villa is built on Phoenix Mountain and is the only hotel on the mountain. It is visited by many people on vacation. Xiao Fangfang sat in the back of the car, her eyes fell on the back of his head. He spoke very little along the way, as deep and reserved as his clothes at the moment. The cynical look he had just had was gone again. Xiao Fangfang, you must not let yourself be fooled. This guy must be pretending to be like this on purpose. He changes his face faster than women. I don't know how many girls he has harmed. You must be careful and never be fooled. This is just a game, if you take it seriously you will lose. She kept instilling this idea in herself and had already regarded the relationship between them as a game. Half an hour later, the BMW stopped in the outdoor parking lot and the two walked in. As they walked into the villa, they suddenly heard a familiar voice, Fangfang, it's really you. I thought I recognized the wrong person. A well-mannered man in a grey suit and glasses appeared in front of the two of them. His eyes fell on Fangfang and suddenly his eyes lit up and he stretched out his hand. Bo Wen, it's you. Long time no see. Xiao Fangfang asked in surprise, stretching out her hand and about to shake hands. A hand was faster than his and shook Bowen's hand. Xiong said politely, You're welcome. While holding it, he exerted force with his hands, and suddenly Zhang Bowen screamed and jumped up. Xiong. Xiao Fangfang was slightly angry and glared at him fiercely. It's okay, is this your boyfriend? Zhang Bowen shook his hands and asked politely. However, there was a hint of cruelty in Xiong's eyes. No. Xiong shook his head. Xiao Fangfang breathed a sigh of relief, and the next moment Xiong continued, I am her man. A boyfriend and a man seem to have similar consciousness, but if you look deeper, there is a huge difference. At least the latter has had sex, but the former may not have. Xiao Fangfang almost collapsed. If Zhang Bowen hadn't been there, she would have definitely lost her temper. Zhang Bowen felt like a fly had flown into his mouth. He could neither swallow it nor spit it out. He looked so embarrassed that he could only say a few words awkwardly and then ran away. Please, could you be a gentleman? Gentlemanly manners depend on the object. You can judge for yourself. Xiong pointed over there and saw Zhang Bowen, who was very embarrassed just now, was chatting with another scantily clad woman as if nothing had happened. The two of them were quite far apart and it was obvious at a glance that they had just met and were in the stage of getting to know each other in depth. Xiao Fangfang immediately felt very disgusted. It was obvious that this kind of man was a playboy who enjoyed hunting for beauties. The two had just chosen a table when suddenly, someone sat down next to them. With her hair tied up in a bun and wearing a purple dress, she held the menu on the table with her green onion-like hands and said to the waiter, "I'll have one of these, thank you." Xiong looked up and was immediately shocked. Yang Sini had already sat down, as quiet as a princess and as dazzling as a queen. She did not have the wildness of Josephine Xiao, her figure was not as hot as hers, her breasts were not as plump, and there was not much exposed body part on her body, but as soon as she sat there, she immediately caught Xiong's attention. It is an innate temperament that exists in the bones and will not be changed by external clothing. Sini asked you out tonight, otherwise do you really think I would wait for you at that crappy construction site for the whole afternoon? Who do you think you are? Xiao Fangfang rolled her eyes at Xiong and said. Chapter 0008 Let us get married. Mr. Yi, I've always wanted to find an opportunity to thank you but never had the chance. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Yang Sini said with a smile. Just a smile and the surroundings feel like they are bathed in spring breeze. Waiter. Xiong raised his hand and shouted. After the waiter came over, Xiong said, "Open me a glass of the most expensive red wine." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Fangfang glared at him fiercely. Why are you glaring at me? It's not like I'm spending your money. Mr. Yan, I guess I'm happy about it, right? Xiong curled his lips. Yang Sini seemed to be used to his heartless appearance, she smiled and said, "It's okay. Sini, this guy is taking advantage of the situation and trying to climb up the stalks. Don't go along with him. Fangfang, stop talking. I have my own ideas." After Yang Sini finished speaking, her eyes fell on Xiong and she said with a smile, "Mr. Yi. You should call by your name." Xiong got goosebumps when she called him, "Sir," left and right. "I'd better just call you Xiong." Dinner and red wine were served, and the waiter opened the glasses and poured a glass for each person. There were 3 different personalities at the dinner table. Xiao Fangfang kept asking questions, trying to find out Xiong's bottom line. Xiong kept fooling around, and 9 out of 10 sentences were lies. Only Yang Sini, like a wise man, listened from the side, and only occasionally interjected a few words, like an important person. After dinner, Yang Sini said, "Xiong, can you give me a ride? I'm a little drunk." Sini. Why, you can't bear to leave? Yang Sini asked Xiao Fangfang with a blushing face. I'm just warning you, don't be fooled by this guy's appearance, he's full of bad intentions. Xiao Fangfang advised. Did you hear that? Mr. Yan, aren't you afraid of sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth? Xiong looked at Yang Sini intentionally. Yang Sini, who had drunk some red wine, had a flushed face, blurry eyes, and a warm voice, which made her look particularly attractive. She smiled and said, "I believe in Xiong. He is a gentleman. Don't blame me for not warning you if you suffer a loss." After saying this, Xiao Fangfang snorted, got into her BMW, and sped away. For some reason, she felt very uncomfortable. The thought of Xiong sitting in Yang Sini's car made her even more unhappy. Let a crappy construction worker take you there. I curse you to lose your virginity today. Xiao Fangfang cursed over and over again. Xiong walked into Yang Sini's Porsche and looked at her from the rearview mirror. She was sitting quietly in the back seat, looking out the window, as if she was thinking about something. The mottled street lights flickered on her face, sometimes bright and sometimes dim. The familiar smile on her face had disappeared, replaced by a frown, as if she was thinking about something. Mr. Yan, where are you going? Xiong asked. Let's take a walk around the top of Chinju Mountain. Yang Sini said lightly. Chinju Mountain is a mountain in the north of Jiangnan City. There is a small road on the mountain that winds up to the top of the mountain. It is a good place for a drive. Xiong didn't understand why she went to that kind of place when it was almost night. Did she want to have something happen with him? When he thought of this, he immediately rejected it. He remembered Xiao Fangfang said that Yang Sini was a religious believer and opposed any contact before marriage. It would be a miracle if she wanted to have anything happen with him. The car whizzed away and soon reached the top of the mountain. The two had just got off the car when they suddenly heard a shouting sound and 7 drunk young men surrounded them. We were just talking about women, and right away a beauty showed up at my door, and she's so pretty. God has a good vision and can make us brothers happy. Go ahead, take off your clothes first. 5 or 6 gangsters surrounded her and stared at Yang Sini with lustful eyes. Yang Sini hid behind Xiong, not at all panicked, as if she knew that Xiong could definitely deal with these gangsters. Roll. A cold voice came out of Xiong's mouth. The sound was not loud, but it was enough to shake the soul, and immediately the group of gangsters seemed to sober up a little. You little brat, you don't know whether to live or die, beat me up. Before he could finish his words, the guy had already flown 5 or 6 meters away and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. The thugs around him didn't even get to see clearly how Xiong made the move. This kid is a bit weird, let's go together. The rest drew daggers from their waists and rushed towards Xiong fiercely. Boom! There was a sound of broken bones, and the hand that stabbed Xiong not only had the knife taken away, but also the wrist was broken. Then it was kicked away fiercely and fell on the thug. The remaining thugs were all dumbfounded, and disappeared without a trace. It's finally quiet. Yang Sini walked to one of the rocks and sat down, as if she had known the result. Xiong followed her and sat down as well, 1 meter away. For some reason, when facing Yang Sini, Xiong couldn't pretend to be heartless like he did when facing Xie Fangfang or others, as if her eyes could see through him. Let's get married. Yang Sini said suddenly. What? Xiong had heard countless words in his life, but none of them was as shocking as this one, which directly frightened him. I've been thinking about it for a long time these past few days. As long as I don't get married, Yaohua won't give up, and my dad will keep introducing me to potential partners. In the morning, my dad asked me what happened that night, but I couldn't tell him, so he forced me to continue dating Yaohua. You should know that this is impossible. So you want to use a fake marriage to make your father and Yaohua give up? Xiong continued to ask. As long as I get married, my father will definitely stop making trouble. Just give me another 2 years. Once my career has a foundation, I won't be afraid of Haoqian group anymore. Do you think this kind of marriage is what I need? Xiong sneered. What does she think of herself? It's just a piece of paper license. Apart from that, there are no mission constraints. I don't have to fulfill my wife's obligations. You can go out and have fun, pick up girls, and do whatever you want. Just don't let my dad know. As long as we pass this level, we can divorce at any time. As a reward, I will give you 1 million a year, but you have to be available whenever I need you. Xiong never thought that the reason Yang Sini kept looking for him would be about this matter. Logically, he would definitely not accept it, but the scene of her sitting in the back seat of the car, looking out the window, that lonely scene emerged in his mind. It was so similar to the scene when he was leaving Kyoto by car after losing his most important team. This woman must have a lot of things hidden in her heart. On the surface, she lives a good life, she is rich and powerful, has a car and a house, but is she really happy? Why choose me? Xiong asked. I don't know why, but my intuition made me choose you. Although you appear cynical on the surface, you must be hiding a lot of unhappiness in your heart. I think we are the same kind of people, but we just express ourselves in different ways. You chose to be cynical, and I chose to be armed with sectarian beliefs. Our goals are the same, so why don't we help each other? To some extent, there is no loss for either of us. I achieved my goal, and you got the money. You think too much. I don't have anything to make me unhappy. Xiong denied. With your talent, you can be a manager or decision maker, not to mention a construction worker. You seem to be doing this for only one purpose, which is to numb yourself with crazy work. Xiong didn't expect that even though he disguised himself so well, this woman still saw through him. After you register, I will send you 1 million, which is enough for you to start a small business. Starting a business is the busiest thing. It will be so busy that you can think about going to work at night without having to think too much. You don't need to consider these. We can only trade. It's my own business to choose what kind of life I want to live. Whatever you want. Meet at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau at 8 o'clock tomorrow. When they came back, one was driving quietly and the other was looking out the window quietly, as if they were two unrelated people. Who would have thought that after tomorrow, the two would become husband and wife, at least legally speaking. When they reached the city center, Xiong got off the car, and Yang Sini drove back to her home. After returning to the dormitory, Xiong's mind was full of the image of Yang Sini behind the car, as if she was another self. Feeling dizzy and having not slept much the previous night, Xiong went to the Civil Affairs Bureau early the next morning with his ID card and household registration booklet, and waited quietly. Within 10 minutes, Yang Sini arrived. She wore a black business dress with a windbreaker on the outside. Her long curly hair fell straight down on her shoulders without being tied up, which gave her a girl next door vibe. She was 1.67 meters tall and weighed about 100 kilograms. Her body proportions were very even. There was not a trace of fat on her long calves. Her waist was as thin as a willow and her neck was long. If one had to find a flaw in her body, it would be that her breasts were a little small, not meeting Xiong's standards. It was the first time that Xiong looked at Yang Sini so seriously. A hint of self-mockery appeared on the corner of his mouth. He knew that this was just a marriage of a game, so why think so much? No matter how beautiful she was, he couldn't flip her over in bed. Today is Thursday, not a special day, so we don't have to wait long. However, the two of them forgot to take pictures and were forced to go to a photo studio to take a wedding photo. That was the first time Xiong was close to her and smelled her faint body fragrance. When they were each holding a red notebook in their hands, Xiong suggested going for lunch as a souvenir, but Yang Sini refused, saying that she had work to do at the company and had to go back to deal with it. Half an hour later, there was an additional 1 million yuan in Xiong's card, and the rest would be transferred when the divorce happened. In the following days, Xiong continued his life of moving bricks. He threw the red notebook under the bed, as if nothing had happened. Since the last shooting, Luo Weiwei hasn't come to bother him. It seems that he has a lot of things to deal with. Chapter 0009, Where Are Your Eyes Looking? That day, Xiong had just got off work when he was stopped outside the construction site by 5 burly men in black suits. The leader had a scar on his face and looked arrogant. "You are Xiong, someone wants to see you," Scarface said coldly. "No time." Xiong knew at first sight that the person in front of him was not a good person. If his guess was correct, he must have been sent by that guy named Yaohua. He had ruined his wedding last time, so it would be strange if he would let him go. "Take it away." Scarface took out a pack of cigarettes and lit it gently. As the most powerful general under Lu Bao, Scar felt that his boss was really using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. To deal with such a poor construction worker, he had to bring 4 of his brothers with him, but only 1 or 2 of them could have taken him away. Click, the cigarette was lit, and a cloud of smoke blocked his sight. When his vision returned, the figures standing in front of him had disappeared. When he looked down, they were all lying on the ground, unconscious. What the hell is going on? Scarface hadn't reacted yet, his neck was tightly clamped. Xiong said coldly, "Go back and tell your master that I don't want anyone to disturb my life. Next time, he will die ugly." Bang! Throwing him to the ground, Xiong walked away. Scarface coughed desperately, and after a long while he took out the phone and dialed it. In the night sauna city, Lu Bao was lying in the steaming hot sauna room, enjoying the craftsmanship of a beautiful woman with big breasts and a round butt. Her snake-like hands, pinching on his bones, made him feel comfortable to the core. He hasn't felt so comfortable and relaxed for a long time. After searching for half a month, he finally found the bastard who disrupted Dong Xiao's wedding. He was a worker at a construction site. Now he has sent his most proud subordinate Scar to catch him, and he is probably on his way back. Harder, wow, it feels good. Lu Bao moaned. Just then, the phone rang. "Brother Leopard, we failed." The point was very hard. Scarface's voice sounded over there. "What did you say?" Lu Bao jumped up from the bed and asked in surprise, "Can't the 5 of you catch him?" "Brother Leopard, this guy is not an ordinary person. I don't think even 10 people can be his match," Scarface said in surprise. "You are a piece of trash. You can't even handle the smallest things. Master Dong must see his confession tonight. No matter what means you use, if you can't do it, get out." After Lu Bao finished speaking, he threw his phone away fiercely. After Scarface hung up the phone, he woke up several of his unconscious men on the ground and made a call. At noon, Xiong was eating in the cafeteria when the phone rang. It was Yang Sini. "My dad knows, and he wants to see you," Yang Sini said calmly on the other end of the phone. "When?" "Tonight at 6 o'clock, he likes tea, you can buy some and I can reimburse you." After saying that, Yang Sini hung up the phone. Xiong was about to go out to buy some tea when suddenly a police car stopped at the entrance of the company. 2 police officers got out of the car and said coldly, "Mr. Xiong, we are police officers from the Jiancheng branch. My name is Xu Da, and this is my colleague Xie Yu." We now suspect that you are involved in a case and need you to go back to assist in the investigation. Black and white 1T work, let us go with white, right? A sneer appeared on Xiong's lips. It seemed that he had really wanted to kill him. If it was a gangster, Xiong would definitely take action, but if he hit a policeman, it would be more troublesome. Shu Da came over and wanted to handcuff Xiong. Xiong frowned, a murderous aura surged out, and he said coldly, I can go back to assist in the investigation, but before I find out the truth, are you qualified to do this to me? When this murderous aura came out, Shu Da and Xie Yu's pores stood up immediately. They didn't expect that a construction worker could emit such a strong murderous aura. They couldn't even look directly at the look in his eyes, as if he was a killer god of the end times. You will suffer the consequences once you are put in police station. Yang Da snorted coldly and thought secretly. Xiong took out his cell phone to make a call. 2 police officers seemed to want to stop him, but were forced back by Xiong's sharp eyes and no one dared to speak. I was taken away by the Jiangcheng branch to record my statement. I'm not sure when I'll be released. Xiong called Yarnsini. I'll send someone to help you. Yarnsini said and hung up the phone again. Half an hour later, in the interrogation room of Jiangcheng branch. Xiong was locked in a small dark room, handcuffed, with Shu Da and Xie Yu sitting in front of him. Do you know your crime? Shu Da sat in front of him and sneered. I don't understand what crime I have committed. Xiong replied coldly. You think you don't know how to use Photoshop to frame others? Shu Da threw the document in front of him with a snap and said coldly, sign it if you know what's good for you. Yi took the document from the desk, looked through it carefully, and couldn't help laughing. The general meaning of the above is that he used a computer to Photoshop a video to slander He Xiaodong, the CEO of the He Group, because of his hatred of the rich. This is a confession for him to admit. This He Xiaodong seems to be unaware that Yarnsini is married to him. How sad. I can't sign this. Bang. He punched the table hard, pointed at him and cursed, don't think I can't control you just because you don't say it. I'm telling you, I'll put you in jail in a minute. I've eaten all kinds of food in my life, but I've never been in prison. Xiong said with a hint of sarcasm. Xie Yu pressed a button on the table in front of him and said, I have closed the circuit now. Even if I beat you up and make you bleed internally, no one will know. Shu Da walked around the table and came in front of Xiong, just about to take action. Xiong, who was originally sitting, suddenly grabbed his hand and slammed his head hard on the table, causing blood to flow out immediately. Xie Yu was startled and was about to draw his gun when Xiong pounced on him, knocked him to the ground, and hit him in the nose with his fist, smashing his entire nose and causing blood to flow. In a split second, one had a broken forehead and the other had a collapsed nose, and both lost the ability to resist. This is still Xiong showing mercy. If he had used more force, no one would have survived. After taking the guns from the 2 men, Xiong calmly sat back in his seat. Boy, you're dead. The 2 men got up from the ground and stumbled to the interrogation room. Xiong placed the 2 guns on the table, not worried at all. With his status, Feng Wang would definitely not let him go to jail. Even if Feng Wang did not take action, Yarnsini would not let her newly married husband go to jail. Shu Da and Xie Yu fled the interrogation room in a panic and went straight to the deputy director's office. Luo Weiwei was talking about the case with 2 of her subordinates when suddenly the door was pushed open and 2 subordinates with broken heads and noses walked in. What happened? Luo Weiwei asked in surprise. We just caught a criminal and were questioning him in the interrogation room when he suddenly attacked us. He's handcuffed, isn't he? If he dares to attack a police officer, won't you shoot him to death? Luo Weiwei said angrily. The gun was taken away. Shu Da said weakly. What, your gun is in his hand? Luo Wei was shocked. Mine is here too. Xie Yu next to him said weakly. Luo Weiwei was almost mad with anger. The 2 of them were in the interrogation room and a prisoner snatched their gun away. The prisoner was handcuffed at that. It was really embarrassing. If the prisoner rushed out with a gun and shot and injured someone in the police station, there would be trouble. She could not afford to be responsible for this. Where is he now? He should still be in the interrogation room. Luo Weiwei dropped the work in her hands and strode towards the interrogation room. Along the way, she saw her colleagues working normally, which meant that the murderer was still inside, which made her feel relieved. Luo Weiwei took a deep breath. This was the first time in her life that she had encountered such a big thing. She kept telling herself to stay calm, she must stay calm. Chief, are you going in like this? Xu Die asked worriedly. How about you go in? Luo Weiwei rolled her eyes at him. Xu Die quickly stepped back a few steps. He had seen the strength of that guy before and knew he was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A group of people rushed in, with the black muzzles of their guns pointed inside the interrogation room. Seeing a group of policemen pointing guns at him, Xiong quickly raised his hands and shouted, "Don't shoot, I confess everything. I will admit any crime you ask me to confess." Seeing his familiar look and hearing his familiar voice, Luo Weiwei was really at a loss for words. What on earth was this guy doing? She walked over and checked the gun on the table. Not a single bullet was missing. She handed it to Xu Die and gave it to Xie Yu, cursing, "Waste, take it back." Xu Die and Xie Yu hurried over and took back their guns. All of you get out, I'll talk to him. Director. Get out. The police officers retreated one after another, and in an instant, only Xiong and Luo Weiwei were left in the interrogation room. You ran over a car with a motorcycle, opened handcuffs with wire, and even injured 2 of my men with handcuffs on. Don't tell me you are just a construction worker. Luo Weiwei's eyes fell on Xiong, with a look of both laughter and anger. With such skills, when he was chased by the gunman that day, he definitely wasn't scared to that extent, but was deliberately taking advantage of him. Comrade beautiful policewoman, I really am a construction worker. If you don't believe me, you can go ask. I have been working here for half a year. Xiong said, his eyes falling on Luo Weiwei's proud and upright place. He didn't know why, but every time he saw Luo Weiwei, he couldn't help but look over there. Is this what they call threatening someone with a weapon? Where are you looking? Luo Weiwei's eyes widened with anger. Scenic view. Bang. Luo Weiwei slammed her fist on the table and said fiercely, "Say it again if you dare." Xiong was speechless and murmured, "It's not against the law to take a look, and I won't get pregnant." Luo Weiwei resisted the urge to draw her gun and shoot him, sat down and said, "I won't bother with you about the car crush for now, but assaulting a police officer and seizing a gun, these 2 charges are enough to send you to jail." Beauty, I didn't attack the police. I am a good citizen. The surveillance video recorded it clearly, yet you still want to make excuses. If you don't believe me, you can go and watch the surveillance. Xiong looked indifferent. At this moment, a police officer came over and said, "Chief, lawyer Wu Chanchun is here to bail Xiong out. Tell him that Xiong is suspected of assaulting a police officer and will not be granted bail." Luo Weiwei said angrily. "Chief, I just went to the surveillance department and checked. The closed-circuit video was turned off. There was no video of him attacking the police." Who closed the circuit? Officer Xu Die. Chapter 0010, Hero Saves Beauty. Luo Weiwei stared at Xiong, who was sitting in front of her with his legs crossed and looking like he deserved a beating, with sharp eyes. She was so angry that this guy had been deceiving her from the very beginning, and she was so stupid that she was deceived and even got taken advantage of. Who is Wu Changchun? He is one of the best lawyers in Jiangnan City and one of the lawyers that gives the police the most headaches. Now that he has come in person, it shows that this guy definitely has a complicated background. There is no evidence of assaulting the police now, so it is impossible to lock him up. At this moment, the cell phone rang. It was a call from Huang Weifu, director of the municipal bureau. Why would a top leader like Huang Weifu call me on his own initiative? Could it be because of this guy? Hello, Director Huang. Xiao Wei, have you captured a criminal named Xiong? A deep voice sounded on the other end of the phone. Yes. Release him immediately. Director, why is this? Luo Weiwei asked puzzledly. Don't ask so many questions. This is an order from above. Release him immediately. After saying that, he hung up the phone. The person above is the provincial leader. How could such a guy make the provincial leader call the director? Luo Weiwei looked at Xiong again and couldn't help asking, who are you? Brick mover at the future new city construction site. Xiong smiled. Although I don't know what your background is, you are in my territory now. If you commit a crime, I will never let you go. Luo Weiwei said angrily. Xiong stood up, put the document on the table in front of her, and said with a smile, next time you slander someone, tell your men to be smarter. If I am so good at computers and can use Photoshop, do I still need to move bricks? Like a magic trick, the handcuffs in his hand disappeared again. Xiong waved his hand and said, "Goodbye, beautiful police officer." Luo Weiwei glanced at the documents on the desk. Her expression changed immediately, and she shouted, "Shu Die, Xia Yu, get in here." In the afternoon, Luo Weiwei locked herself in the office, burning with anger. She never imagined that Shu Die and Xia Yu, as public officials, would actually frame others. Now both of them have been suspended and will face severe punishment. Luo Wei turned on the computer, pulled up Xiong's file, and was stunned when she saw the two photos on the computer. A while ago, she checked Xiong's file, which said that both his parents had passed away and he was alone. But less than 10 days later, there was another woman in his file, a woman she had never dreamed of. Spouse, Yang Sini, married less than 10 days. The president of Sini Group would actually marry him. She thought this world was crazy. For some reason, she suddenly felt a sour feeling in her heart. She kept recalling the scene of being attacked on the chest by that bastard that day, and her anger grew. "Don't fall into my hands next time, or I'll make you die a miserable death." The other side. Scarface waited and waited, but there was no call from the police station. He was getting anxious. At this time, the phone rang. It was Lu Bao. "Is everything settled?" Lu Bao asked over there. "It's almost done. I paid a friend in the police station to do it." "Fuck you, you almost got me killed." Xiong has just walked out of the police station in broad daylight, and nothing happened to him. "But I can't even get through to your two friends on the phone. Maybe they have been put under double supervision," Lu Bao said angrily. "Brother Leopard, I didn't expect that guy also had someone in the police station. Don't worry about what happens next. Don't take any action in the short term. Wait for my order." After saying this, Lu Bao hung up the phone unhappily. As Xiong walked out of the police station, the phone rang again. It was Yang Sini. "At the Oriental Hotel, be there promptly at 6:30. "Good." After saying that, he hung up the phone again. Xiong sighed. It was just a transaction, and he had done this kind of acting many times before. He could get money this time. He didn't know why he sighed. Back at the construction site dormitory, he changed into clean clothes and went out to buy tea. When passing the third ring road intersection, he heard the sound of a car collision behind him. He turned around and saw a Porsche sedan rolling dozens of meters on the road and crashing into the wall of the fruit shop next to it before stopping. Parts were scattered all over the ground. It was impossible for the people in the car to survive such a collision. What a pity for that Porsche, it costs over tens of millions. Xiong took a casual look and saw a blood-stained face inside the cab, groaning with difficulty, his brows furrowed in pain. What a lucky guy. If one survives under such circumstances, it can only be attributed to the fact that one was very blessed in the previous life. "Hurry up and save them," Xiong shouted as he ran to the car. Many people surrounded the Porsche from a distance, but no one went to rescue it. This was not the time to lament the indifference of human nature. Xiong jumped to the front of the car and kicked the front window hard. The front window of this 1,000-level luxury car was very hard. Xiong kicked it more than 10 times before he kicked a hole in it. Xiong went in and carried the woman whose face was covered in blood. He had just run a dozen meters when he heard a loud bang and the entire Porsche caught fire. "Don't worry, you're fine, don't sleep." After putting the girl on the ground, Xiong checked her heartbeat and found that she was fine, so he called an ambulance and the police. Only after the ambulance arrived did Xiong leave silently. "There were more than a dozen missed calls on the phone, it was almost 7 o'clock, and I didn't know when the gift I just bought was taken away." Yang Sini was late for the first meeting with her parents. She must be going crazy. Xiong dialed the number. On the other end of the phone, Yang Sini asked calmly, "Where are you?" "It's just a small matter that delayed me." "Is there anything more important than meeting the parents?" Xiong originally wanted to explain, but then he thought that the marriage between them was just a transaction, so what was the point of explaining? "Come over first and talk about it," Yang Sini said and hung up the phone. 20 minutes later, Xiong had changed into a new set of clothes. His clothes were stained with blood during the process of saving people and could not be worn. He had no choice but to buy a set of clothes at random in the Jeppy shopping mall. As for gifts, he really had no time to buy them. I rushed to the hotel and found the private room, where Yang Sini was the only one left. Where are the people? My parents had already left half an hour after you were late. I saw that the meal was so sumptuous that it would be a waste if you didn't eat it, so I asked you to come. Anyway, you are used to eating for free. Yang Sini sneered. If someone else had said that he was a freeloader, Xiong would have just laughed it off, but when he heard Yang Sini say that, he suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Although the two had not met much in the past, Xiong felt that Yang Sini was the person who understood him best, so he agreed to a fake marriage with her. He did not expect that she would be so harsh in her words. Xiong didn't hesitate to pick up the dishes and eat them like a hungry ghost. Yang Sini hadn't said anything the whole time. After he had eaten his fill, she said, "It seems we must have an agreement. From now on, when I ask you out, you must arrive on time at the specified time and place. This is your obligation. 1 million is not easy to earn. From now on, every time you are late, 50,000 will be deducted. You are soft-hearted, and I will do whatever you say." Xiong took out a tissue to wipe his mouth, laughed at himself, and then asked, "Is there anything else? If not, I will leave first. As a man, shouldn't you explain why you are late?" Yang Sini continued to ask. She held back her anger because she had maintained a good self-control. It didn't mean she wasn't angry, she had been waiting for him for more than an hour. She just wanted him to give her an explanation, even if it was just a fabricated one, which was what a man should do. However, Xiong said calmly without saying a word, "I will transfer 50,000 yuan back to your account." After saying that, he left. When Yang Sini returned to the villa, it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. Neither of my parents were in the living room, and they were obviously very annoyed about what happened today. Yang Dingguo was already furious because she secretly stole their household registration booklet and married someone else. Adding on the fact that Xiong broke his promise tonight, it was like a bomb. The couple was extremely dissatisfied with this son-in-law whom they had never met. Yang Sini had already thought of this result, but she didn't expect it to be worse than she imagined. After returning to the room and taking a shower, she lay on the bed and watched TV. Now playing the 10 o'clock news. At 5:32 this afternoon, a major traffic accident occurred on the 3rd Ring Road in this city. An out-of-control truck knocked over a Porsche, and the owner of the car was in danger. At the critical moment, an unknown hero appeared and rescued the owner. This is a video recorded by a spectator at the scene. What followed was a thrilling scene. A man in grey clothes rescued an unconscious woman from a broken car. Just as he walked a dozen meters, their whole car burst into flames. Even if he was a few seconds slower, both of them would have been dead. After saving the man left quietly. Thanks to the timely rescue, the car owner is no longer in danger of death. Yang Sini stared blankly at the familiar figure on TV. Although the phone did not capture the face, she was very familiar with the figure. Considering the wound on Xiong's hand, she was almost certain that it was Xiong who saved the man. Suddenly, all kinds of feelings filled my heart, and the previous anger was swept away. "This guy, it's so hard to explain," Yang Sini murmured. She turned the phone over and over in her hands, wanting to call and ask. Finally, she didn't dial the number. It was just a paper deal between the two of them, so why bother going into it further? In order to ensure smooth cooperation in the future, she still sent a message: "What happened today is in the past, and I hope we can have pleasant cooperation in the future." After sending the message, she was looking forward to a reply, but she waited until 11 o'clock and still received no reply. "You are so good, Xiong. Do you still think you are so important? I don't know how many men want to send me messages but can't. And you are acting like a grandson." When she was about to fall asleep, the message was finally replied. It was just one word. No, it should be just one punctuation mark. Dot. Oh, what I mean is that every word is precious. I just said a few harsh words. Is there any need to be like this, you stingy guy? Yang Sini threw her phone away and covered herself with the quilt angrily. Chapter 0011, Snobby Woman. The next morning. "Brother Xiong, my mother asked me to take you home for dinner today," Wang Tong said. "Why are you suddenly inviting me to dinner?" Xiong asked curiously. "My sister graduated from college and just found a job. Mom is very happy and asked me to take you home for dinner. After get off work, let's go back and change our clothes, then go back to taste your mother's cooking." The day passed quickly and in the blink of an eye it was evening. The two returned to the construction site dormitory, simply changed their clothes, and headed towards Wang Tong's hometown. Although he had known that Wang Tong's family was poor, Chen still couldn't help being shocked when he actually went there. A blue brick house of less than 100 square meters was covered with moss. There were not many families living within 100 meters around it. All of them had moved out and either bought houses in the city or rented places. No one wants to live in this corner. Mom, we are here. This is the Xiong brother I have been telling you about. Xiao Tong is back, come and take a seat. An old lady with grey hair came over and was very enthusiastic. You are Xiong, Xiao Tong often mentioned you, saying that you helped him many times. It's just friends helping each other, nothing more. Xiong said with a smile. The place is a bit narrow, don't mind. We are all poor. By the way, Mom, isn't my sister back yet? Wang Tong asked. I just called her and she should be on the way. My daughter is becoming more and more unreasonable. There was some unhappiness in Aunt Wang's voice. Mom, what's wrong? Wang Tong asked curiously. As far as I can remember, my mother has always been very proud of my sister Wang Shu. She would tell everyone how hard-working her daughter was, how she was admitted to a prestigious university, and how she always ranked top in academic performance. The words that came out of her mouth were always words of praise, and she had never used this tone of voice to speak. As they were talking, the sound of a car was heard at the door. After a while, a heavily made-up girl walked in, followed by a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s with a big belly. When Xiong saw the two people coming in, he understood instantly. You're back, please sit down. Aunt Wang said coldly. Can I sit on this chair? The middle-aged man looked at the chair with a look of disgust in his eyes. The heavily made-up woman came over, glanced at the chair in front of her, frowned, and said angrily, Mom, didn't I tell you to tidy up the hygiene? Look at this chair. The chair has been wiped and those marks can't be wiped off, Aunt Wang explained. Can't you buy some new furniture? Are these chairs for people to sit on? What will we do when our family members or guests come over? Wang Shu said angrily. Forget it, just pick up something to cushion your butt. The middle-aged man came over and searched for a long time before he found a few bags to cushion his butt and sit down. Please serve the food quickly. Yang Bin and I need to go back home after eating. After saying that, she took out a tissue and wiped the chair several times before grabbing her skirt and sitting down carefully. Aunt Wang then went to serve the dishes. Auntie, let me help you. Xiong walked over with a smile and brought the meal over. Chicken soup, fish, pork ribs, pork knuckles, and prawns, a very rich dinner. Didn't I tell you to pluck all the feathers from this chicken? And the scales of this fish aren't cleaned either. Is this a pig's trotter? It's so black and looks like something else. Wang Shu kept cursing. Xiong was an outsider and couldn't say anything, but Wang Tong couldn't stand it anymore and slammed his chopsticks on the table. Sister, can you please stop talking? You know how hard it is for Mom to prepare such a large table of food by herself. I bought food all morning and have been busy since noon. I don't even have water to drink. I cooked for you, and you still complain. How did you become like this? I told her not to waste her time and just go to their hotel for a meal, but she insisted on doing it. It doesn't cost money to go to their hotel. I didn't ask you to spend money. I have money. Wang Shu said loudly. The dinner table was suddenly very awkward. Just have a meal and eat something casually. Yang Bin, a middle-aged man, took a soup spoon and scooped a small bowl of soup. Aunt Wang's eyes turned red. She put the chopsticks on the table and walked into the inner room. Wang Tong clenched his fists tightly. Xiong believed that if he was not there, he would probably lose his temper. Brother, I have something I want to tell you. Wang Shu was eating and suddenly said, I hope you don't go to work in future new city. Find another construction site. Why? I am now a real estate sales assistant under Cine Group. I am now focusing on the sales of future new town. I don't want others to know that my brother is a construction worker at a construction site. It doesn't matter where you are a construction worker. Xiong had been suppressing himself, but now he finally couldn't help but speak out. If your brother wasn't a construction worker, how would you have gotten the money to go to school? If he hadn't lived frugally, would he have grown so thin? This is our family affair, none of your business. Wang Shu shouted. Why don't I have to worry about it? The money I sent to you last month to help you find a job was loaned to you by brother Xiong. Wang Tong said. 2,000, right? Wang Shu took out his bag, counted out 2,000 coins, and added 2 more. Here's 2,002, the extra 200 is for you as interest. Sister. Wang Tong couldn't help but roar. At this time, the phone rang and Yang Bin walked aside to answer it. What? The president is inspecting the construction site. How could this happen? I'll be back right away. After Yang Bin hung up the phone, he said anxiously, Wang Shu, I have something to go back for. Wait a minute, I'll go back with you. Wang Shu said, picked up his bag, and disappeared in a moment. He didn't even say hello to his mother. Brother Xiong, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you. Wang Tong sighed, pointed at the dishes and said, ignore them, let's eat. Go and call Auntie out so we can eat together. Wang Tong went to call Aunt Wang back, her eyes were still red. Auntie, have a bowl of chicken soup first. Yi Chen scooped a bowl of hot soup and placed it in front of her. This pig's trotter is well made. What are those black ones? My secret spice. No wonder it's so delicious. And this fish is delicious too. Yi Xiong hadn't eaten such delicious food for a long time. He ate 4 large bowls in a row before patting his stomach. After the meal, Aunt Wang said, Wang Tong, we're out of salt. Go buy some. Mom, just buy it tomorrow. It's not urgent. Go quickly. Aunt Wang ordered. Yi Xiong knew that Aunt Wang sent Wang Tong away because she had something to say to him. After Wang Tong left, Aunt Wang sighed and said, Yi Xiong, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you. Wang Shu has just entered society and doesn't know that family is the best shelter. Once she sees the world, she will wake up, said Yi Xiong. I'm afraid that by the time she wakes up, she'll have paid a heavy price. As she spoke, Aunt Wang's eyes turned red again. She wiped her tears and continued, since she decided to date Yang Bin, I strongly opposed it. I didn't expect her to insist on doing so. I really don't understand why she would rather degrade herself like this, as a good girl. Chapter 0012 Good Man, am I worthy of it? Children from poor families are severely polarized. Either they are very self-reliant and take the right path to make a living, or they try to get ahead and escape poverty through some unorthodox means. Wang Shu has obviously taken the wrong path. Tonger has been sensible since he was young. He knew that his family was poor and couldn't afford to send his sister to school. He voluntarily dropped out of school just for his sister. He didn't expect that when the time came, his sister would become like this. If he had known, he would have let Tonger go to college. Yi Xiong, since the first time I saw you, I knew you were not an ordinary person. Aunt Wang looked at Yi Xiong with her sharp eyes. Auntie, I'm just an ordinary person. Don't bully me because I'm poor and uneducated. I've seen people with my eyes for more than 60 years, so I can still distinguish some things. I don't know why you became a construction worker, but I know that you must be a good person. Good man, do I deserve it? Wang Shu is beyond saving. What I am most worried about now is Tonger, so I hope you can take care of him within your ability. Don't worry, Auntie. I won't let anything happen to him. Yi Xiong said with a smile. When we left the village, it was already past 7 o'clock and it was almost dark. Brother Xiong, my mother just said something to you. She is a nagging and annoying person. Don't take it to heart. Wang Tong said. Your mother asked me if you have a girlfriend. No way, what do you say? I said you were talking about one. You want to harm me, but next time she asks me to bring someone back, where should I find her? Everything can be rented out now, so just rent one and take it back when the time comes. Fuck, it doesn't cost money. I have my wallet. Next, Yi Chen went to buy 2 new Apple phones, one for himself and the other for Wang Tong. Brother Xiong, I can't accept such a valuable thing. Wang Tong didn't expect Yi Xiong to give him a mobile phone and pushed it away repeatedly. Do you want it or not? If not, I'll smash it. Yi Xiong said, holding up his phone. Wang Tong was shocked by his gesture. This Yi Xiong was a bit neurotic and seemed to be able to do it. So he quickly took the phone back. Next, Yi Xiong invited Wang Tong to have a good time for the whole day and spent money like water. In just half a day, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on some impractical things. Brother Xiong, where did you get so much money? Are you doing anything illegal? Wang Tong asked weakly. The money belongs to my wife. Who is your wife? Why have I never heard of her? Wang Tong asked curiously. Yang Sini. Yi Xiong told the truth. Puff. Wang Tong almost burst out laughing. Nima, your wife is Yang Sini, and my wife is still Zhang Zi. Alas, why does no one believe me when I tell the truth? Yi Xiong sighed helplessly. The next day at work, Yi Xiong and Wang Tong were moving bricks at the construction site when suddenly a woman in office clothes came over and shouted from a distance, Wang Tong, come here. It was Wang Tong's sister, Wang Shu. Wang Shu had a dark face and a condescending look. He gave Yi Xiong a cold look and said, Wang Tong, you must not associate with people of questionable character in the future. This will only make you lose your future. Brother Xiong is not a man of questionable character. Wang Tong said anxiously. Look at his scoundrelly appearance, and you can tell he's not a good guy. Wang Shu rolled his eyes at Yi Xiong, with a look of contempt in his eyes. He's a grown man with hands and feet, there's nothing he can't do, but he chose to be a construction worker, he has no future at all. Yi Xiong was originally holding back his anger, but after hearing this, he could no longer hold back his anger. What's wrong with being a construction worker? We make a living with our own hands and feet. How could we have provoked you? If your brother wasn't working as a construction worker on the construction site, you wouldn't have had the money to go to college. Now you'd be a whore in that corner. Yi Xiong said angrily. You dare to scold me? Wang Shu pointed at Yi Xiong and trembled with anger. If you were not Wang Tong's sister, I would not just scold you, I would have slapped you twice a long time ago. Yi Xiong snorted. You wait. Wang Shu got angry and left angrily. After she left, Wang Tong sighed and his face looked gloomy. I'm sorry, Brother Xiong, my sister wasn't like this before. I don't know when she became like this. Wang Tong said. It's okay. She will regret it sooner or later. Yi Xiong comforted. Wang Shu returned to the office building, entered the vice president's office, and sat on the sofa sulking. Yang Bin walked in and saw her sitting on the sofa, so he closed the door and went up to hug her. Don't mess around, this is an office. Wang Shu pushed him away. Don't worry, this is my office. If you don't want to come in without my order, come on, give me a kiss. After Yang Bin said that, he moved his face towards Wang Shu, and his stinky big mouth dug into her neck like a pig. Wang Shu pushed him a few times but failed, so he had to let him do what he wanted, and they both rolled onto the sofa. I don't know if it was because the office affair was too exciting or what, but just as Wang Shu was getting started, Yang Bin surrendered, making him even more angry. She kicked Yang Bin's fat body away and said angrily, useless thing. I'm sorry, I got too excited. How about we take a break and try again? Try your dead head. Wang Shu wiped his body clean and said angrily, I want you to do something for me. What's up? Call the human resources department and ask them to fire my brother and that guy named Yi Xiong. Wang Shu said. I'm afraid this won't work. Yang Bin looked embarrassed. Xia Qiu is in charge of the construction site, and it's not convenient for me, who's in charge of sales, to interfere in other people's affairs. Are you going to fight or not? If not, don't blame me for being rude. Wang Shu rolled his eyes at him and said angrily, if I send a picture to your wife or your daughter who is in junior high school, what will you do? Wang Shu waved his phone, which contained a picture of two people being intimate. Yang Bin suddenly became worried and said awkwardly, okay, I'll fight. Yang Bin took out his cell phone, called Xia Qiu directly, and briefly explained the situation. These two porters actually dared to offend General Manager Yang. They are so blind. Tell me, what are their names? Xia Qiu asked proudly. Yi Xiong, Wang Tong. Yang Bin called out two names. They will leave the construction site in half an hour. Xia Qiu said and hung up the phone. It's done. After Yang Bin finished speaking, his eyes fell on Wang Shu's disheveled body, and he became restless again. The body of a young woman is indeed incomparable to that of an older woman at home. Baby, how about we do it again? Chapter 0013 Kneel down. Yi Xiong and Wang Tong were carrying bricks when Aunt Bao suddenly came over and said to Yi Xiong, you two should go to the finance department to settle the bill right now. Auntie Bao, what is going on? Wang Tong asked in shock. Don't you know you've offended people? Hurry up and stop talking nonsense. Aunt Bao urged. Wang Tong knew that his sister must have used her power to do something behind his back. He was immediately very angry and strode towards the office building, saying as he walked, "I'll go and argue with her. I can leave, but I can't implicate you, brother Xiong. Let's go together. I don't want to stay in this place anymore." After Xiong said this, he turned over the entire truck of bricks and clapped his hands. As soon as the two arrived at the office building, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them, looking at Xiong with a smug look on his face. It was Wang Shu. "I told you that offending me will not end well." Wang Shu sneered. Xiong's temper exploded in an instant. He turned around and said to Wang Tong, "I want to teach her a lesson. Do you have any objection?" Wang Tong shook his head. At this moment, he was completely disappointed with his sister. When Wang Shu heard Xiong say he wanted to teach him a lesson, he laughed out loud, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Please take a piss and look at your own moral character. Are you worthy enough to teach me a lesson?" Xiong took out his cell phone and called Yang Sini. "If you have something to say, tell me quickly." A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. "I want you to help me fire someone." Xiong said lightly. "I won't fire any employee just because of what you said. That's not in line with my style." Yang Sini refused decisively. "Then our agreement is invalid." Xiong hung up the phone directly. Wang Tong and Wang Shu were listening to Xiong talking and were very surprised. But when they saw his request was rejected, Wang Shu could no longer hold back and laughed triumphantly. "You want someone to fire me? In the Yang group, there aren't many people who can fire me." As soon as she finished speaking, Xiong's phone rang, and Yang Sini's cold voice came from the other end. "I'll only help you once. It won't happen again. Tell me her name." "Sales department, his name is Wang Shu. She will leave the company in 10 minutes. Yang Sini hung up the phone decisively. Wang Shu was skeptical. Xiong's words gave her a bad feeling, but when she thought about it, she realized that she was a subordinate of Yang Bin, the vice president of the group's sales department. Apart from the general manager of the sales department and the president of the company, no one had the right to fire her. She wanted to see how this guy would make a fool of himself. At this moment, her phone rang and Yang Bin started yelling on the other end of the phone. "Wang Shu, you bitch, you've caused me so much trouble. Yang Bin, be careful with your words." Wang Shu shouted angrily, "What happened?" "President Yang called me personally and asked you to get out within 10 minutes. You should pack up and leave immediately. You have caused me so much trouble. The president just called me to warn me that I abused my power for personal gain and had sex with my female secretary. I am temporarily suspended from my job pending investigation." Yang Bin was furious on the other end of the phone. After Wang Shu heard this, his hands shook and he almost dropped his phone to the ground. He looked at Xiong, almost in disbelief. She never expected that this crappy construction worker would actually call Yang Sini and Yang Sini would immediately help him. How is this possible? One of them is a president and the other is a construction worker. How can they be connected? But at this moment, the facts were in front of her and she had no choice but to believe it. "I'm sorry, I was too impulsive just now. Give me a chance." Wang Shu walked over and pulled Xiong's clothes. This job was too important to her, and she had paid a great price for it. She had sacrificed her body to please Yang Bin, and she had finally gotten it, so she must not lose it. Opportunities are not given by others, you have to fight for them yourself. Xiong replied coldly. "Please, give me another chance. I swear, I will never dare to touch you again." Seeing Xiong was indifferent, Wang Shu hurriedly walked to Wang Tong and said with tears in her eyes, "Brother, you have loved me the most since I was a child. My current job pays tens of thousands of yuan a month. I can buy you a lot of delicious food and give mom a lot of living expenses. I can't live without this job. Go and ask brother Xiong for help." Wang Tong said coldly. "Xiong, I beg you, call the president and ask her to let me go." "If you want to beg me, kneel down." Xiong said coldly. Just now she trampled on the dignity of others, and Xiong wanted her to experience the feeling of being trampled on by others. Boom! Wang Shu knelt in front of Xiong without any hesitation. "I'm kneeling down to you, please, as long as you let me go, I'll do anything, even my body." Xiong was even more disgusted with people who would do anything to get to the top. If she was not Wang Tong's sister, he would have slapped her twice. Face is earned by yourself, not given by others. After Xiong finished speaking, he pulled Wang Tong away, leaving Wang Shu kneeling on the ground with a vicious look in his eyes. When Wang Tong returned to the dormitory and packed his things, he didn't say a word. Obviously he hadn't recovered from his previous emotions. After all, she was his biological sister. Even though it was despicable, they were related by blood after all, so he couldn't ignore it. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say it casually, but I didn't expect her to actually kneel down. Xiong said. I don't know how she became like this. Wang Tong sighed, stopped thinking about her, turned around and asked, Brother Xiong, are we really leaving? Of course. But I don't know how to do anything. I have to give back the food at home. I'm afraid. Don't worry, follow Brother Xiong and I guarantee you'll have food to eat, money to spend, and beautiful women, but you still have to fight for this beautiful woman yourself. Xiong laughed. Brother Xiong, did you really call Yang Sini just now? Wang Tong asked curiously. Yes. What is the relationship between you two? I've told you all about it. She's my wife. My wife is Zhang Zi. Wang Tong rolled his eyes and didn't believe it at all. The two had just packed up their things, opened the door and were about to leave when they suddenly noticed a well-dressed, fat, middle-aged man standing at the door, wandering around awkwardly. Who else could it be but Yang Bin? You're finally out. Yang Bin greeted them with a forced smile when he saw the two of them coming out. What's the wind that brought the dignified vice president of sales here today? It's okay, just chat with you guys. Yang Bin laughed. Xiong coughed and spat violently, and the saliva splashed on the dusty chair next to him. He took the chair and placed it in front of Yang Bin, then said coldly, Vice President Yang, sit down and talk. Chapter 001 for Mr. Yang, please take a seat. Yang Bin took one look at the chair and almost vomited. Is this chair for people to sit on? Not only is it covered with dust, it is also stained with this guy's saliva. Sitting on it makes him feel more disgusted than swallowing a fly. Mr. Yang, Wang Shu has already packed up and left, right? Xiong asked with a sneer. Gone, already gone. Yang Bin replied quickly. Yang Bin recalled the phone call Yang Sini had made to him. Her tone clearly showed that she wanted to freeze him out. Although he didn't know what the relationship between this guy and Yang Sini was, the fact that Yang Sini, who was known for her cold face, immediately fired Wang Shu because of a phone call from him showed that this guy had a special relationship with President Yang. Thinking of this, Yang Bin endured the nausea and sat down on the chair. Wang Tong felt sick, but when he thought of how arrogant this guy was at home today, he felt indescribably refreshed. Even if my chair is dirty, you are not obliged to sit on it no matter how dirty it is. Wang Tong laughed. Anyway, he had already quit his job and would not work here anymore, so he didn't care about Yang Bin's feelings at all. Yang Bin was furious, but he didn't dare to say anything more because he needed help from Xiong. He said awkwardly, Mr. Xiong, I was wrong before. Actually, I have nothing to do with Wang Shu. She is just one of my subordinates. He was just rolling around on the sofa with someone in the office, and now he has turned against me. Only Yang Bin could do such a thing. Whether you have any relationship with her or not is none of my business. Xiong said, and then said to Wang Tong, pack up your things, let's go. Mr. Yi, wait a moment. Yang Bin quickly stood up and chased after her while shouting, please talk to Mr. Yang and ask him to make some concessions. It was that bitch Wang Shu who seduced me. I promise that I will never be with her again. I have already fired her. Xiong turned around and smiled, let me tell you something. What's the matter? Yang Bin asked curiously. In fact, Yang Sini and I have nothing to do with each other. I didn't call her at all. It was because Wang Shu accidentally offended President Yang that she was fired. You were deceived by her. Yang Bin opened his mouth wide, and after a while he became furious. He took out his cell phone and yelled angrily, Wang Shu, you bitch, how dare you talk nonsense. Xiong and Wang Tong were far away, but they could still hear Yang Bin yelling on the phone, and they felt indescribably happy. Brother Xiong, do you really know Yang Sini? Wang Tong couldn't help but be curious. Xiong said he knew her, and then he said he didn't. He didn't know which of his words were true and which were false. I've already said it, she is my wife. Xiong said again. Stop talking nonsense. Just as Xiong was about to answer, the phone rang. It was Yang Sini calling. I'm making a bet with you. If I lose, you have to treat me to a meal. Xiong asked. Let's bet. We eat at restaurants, not at snack bars outside. Let's go ahead. Wang Tong really didn't believe that Yaohua would be this guy's wife. That was simply nonsense. The difference between the two people's identities alone is huge. After the appointment, Xiong answered the call and pressed the speakerphone. What are your plans? Yaohua's voice, as cold as an iceberg, came from the other end of the phone. Wang Tong was very familiar with this voice. Yaohua had given public speeches on countless occasions and had also participated in parties at construction sites and delivered speeches, so Wang Tong was very familiar with her voice. Wife, why are you suddenly so happy with me? Xiong laughed. I'm not concerned, I just want to tell you something. Yaohua's voice was as cold as she believed it. Tomorrow, you move back home, and tomorrow night, meet my dad again. It's fine to meet, but there's no need to move back home. I don't want others to say that I'm a gigolo who relies on my wife for a living. Xiong thought for a moment and said with a smile, how about this, you move out and live with me. I need a 2-meter wide bathtub for bathing, and my room needs to be at least 50 square meters. When I sleep, I need an imported mattress. Do you have any? Yaohua asked. Well. Xiong had no choice but to say, okay, I'll move back, but I declare in advance that I want to sleep alone, you can't force me to sleep with you. Bang! Yaohua hung up the phone directly, and the sound of hanging up almost broke Xiong's eardrums. You have no manners and don't know how to be a CEO. Xiong cursed and put the phone in his pocket. Wang Tong, who was standing next to him, opened his mouth so wide that an egg could almost fit in it. He never dreamed that Xiong was actually Yaohua's husband. How was this possible? Why are you standing there with your mouth open like an idiot? Come and treat me to a meal. Xiong slapped him on the head. It's really like a flower stuck in cow dung. Wang Tong said. 10 minutes later, at a high-end hotel. Wang Tong sat at the table, propped up his chin, looking at the table full of fish and meat, but he had no appetite at all. Damn, this cost a full $1,000, but it's only his 10-day salary, can he afford it? While Xiong was wolfing down his food, he took out his bank card, waved it, and shouted, waiter, pay the bill. Brother Xiong, I said, this is for you right now. Wang Tong quickly took out his wallet. Do you have more money or do I have more money? Xiong scolded, if I let you treat me, I would take you to a restaurant. Is Brother Xiong that kind of person? Wang Tong chuckled, Brother Xiong, you are such a nice person. The two of them ate voraciously, finishing the entire table of food in just a few moments. Wang Tong touched his belly and said, Brother Xiong, what are your plans next? No plans. For Xiong, his life now is like that of a monk, working day by day and ringing the bell. In other words, he is now a walking corpse and it doesn't matter how he lives. What is your dream? Xiong suddenly asked. My dream is to eat, there are so many delicious foods. Then let's open a hotel. Xiong patted his knee and said proudly, as long as we open a hotel, we can eat whatever we want. Are you kidding? Wang Tong saw that this guy was a little too excited. Do you think Brother Xiong is a joker? But opening a hotel requires a lot of money. If you don't have several million, forget it, said Wang Tong. I don't have millions, but I still have hundreds of thousands. I can rent a place and hire some staff. That's enough. If it had been before, when Xiong said there were hundreds of thousands, Wang Tong would not have believed it, but now he believed it. Even such a ridiculous thing as Yaohua being his wife has happened, so what else is impossible? Next, Xiong and Wang Tong began to look for a place to rent in order to open a hotel. At first, Wang Tong thought Xiong was just joking, but after asking several people, he finally believed that Xiong was serious and not just joking. Chapter 0015 This is the problem with the face. Jiangnan Central Hospital, the highest level VIP ward. A beautiful woman dressed in plain clothes was lying on the roof, holding a mobile phone in her hand, looking at it carefully, over and over again, as if she would never get tired of it. This video was found on the internet and is the scene where the accident occurred. Watch the man in the video as he desperately rushes into the burning car, pulls himself out, and then runs away. Every time Yaohua watches the video, her eyes become wet. If it weren't for this man risking his life to save her, she would have died long ago. Suddenly, the door of the room was pushed open and a man wearing glasses walked in. Yaohua, I'm here to see you. The man with glasses had bags of fruit and nutritional supplements in his hands, which were very valuable. Wang Jun, it's enough for you to come and see me. There's no need to spend any money. Du Yaohua said lightly. This is a token of my love, how can I say it's a waste? Wang Jun's eyes fell on Du Yaohua's stunningly beautiful face, and a desire grew in his heart. 5 years ago, he missed Du Yaohua. Now, God has a vision. Du Yaohua's husband, Ron Jingyarn, died in an accident half a year ago. Du Yaohua is now a widow. He must seize this good opportunity no matter what. Put it down. Du Yaohua pointed to the table in front of her. The man with glasses put down the gift and wanted to say something when suddenly the door of the room was pushed open again and a mature and steady man in his 30s walked in with a bouquet of precious flowers in his hand. Just as the mature man put down the flowers, the door was pushed open again and a big man in his 40s with a protruding belly came in. In the half hour since Du Yaohua woke up, more than a dozen men had come and went in the ward. The patient needs to rest, all of you get out. Du Yaohua's assistant Xiaomai finally couldn't help but lose her temper and drove all the men out. At this moment, she didn't care about their identities or whether they were general managers or bosses. It's finally quiet. Xiaomai closed the door and locked it tightly. She walked up to Du Yaohua and said unhappily, Boss Du, it's obvious that these people have ulterior motives. How can you bear it? Most of these people were Jingyang's friends in the business world during his lifetime. They have important identities and I don't want to offend them, said Du Yaohua. They are all like sly rats paying New Year's greetings to chickens. None of them has good intentions. Some want to take advantage of the situation and seduce a young, beautiful and wealthy widow like you, or they want to take over the hotel you are about to transfer. Not a single one of them is sincere. Xiaomai snorted and started to curse. In life, it's enough to have a few true friends and know each other well. Du Yaohua said with a smile. You are just kind-hearted and don't know how dangerous the world is. A kind and beautiful woman like you should stay at home and take care of the children full-time, and shouldn't go out and show your face. If it weren't for Boss Ruan's accident, you wouldn't have to work so hard. As she spoke, Xiaomai's eyes turned red. It's all in the past. I'm used to it. Du Yaohua smiled and suddenly asked, by the way, have you found the unknown hero who saved me? Not yet. I've already offered a reward, but I still haven't found him. Xiaomai said, and suddenly came closer with a giggle, Boss Du, God is merciful. Since he can send a man to save you, one day you will meet again. Maybe you will even have a good relationship with each other. I am a married woman with children. What right do I have to talk about fate? Du Yaohua said sadly, besides, I don't want to get married again. I just want to raise Chena well. TSK, so what if you're married and have children? Just look at the character of those men just now and you'll know how popular you are now. Xiaomai said. Du Yaohua smiled and didn't respond. By the way, there are currently more than a dozen people interested in selling the hotel you want to sell. Here is their information. Xiaomai said and handed over the information in her hand. Du Yaohua took the documents, looked through them one by one, and said, you can ask them to meet at the company this afternoon. I will transfer the documents to whoever is suitable. But you just got out of the hospital. How about taking a rest for 2 days? No, I'm fine. Okay, I'll arrange it. Xiaomai nodded. Brother Xiong, do you really want to attend the bidding meeting? Wang Tong looked at the more than 10-story Mingyang International Hotel in front of him and almost cried. Damn, the total value of this hotel is at least over 50 million. Xiong took hundreds of thousands to participate in the negotiations. Is he out of his mind? Do I look like I'm joking? Xiong pointed at his serious face. It's not a matter of looks, it's a matter of strength, said Wang Tong. That's the problem with the face. Xiong touched his handsome face and laughed, I've inquired about it. The proprietress of this hotel is a widow. Her husband passed away half a year ago. Think about it. She hasn't had sex with a man for more than half a year. How could she not feel lonely and cold? Now I appear out of nowhere. What if she accidentally falls in love with me? Then wouldn't it mean that I have the hotel and I don't have to spend a penny? You're dreaming. As a human being, you must have a dream. Xiong said with a smile. Since their hotel owner Wan Jingyang died in a car accident half a year ago, the hotel's business has plummeted and finally had to be sold. People in the underworld understand that there is definitely no such simple matter. Arriving at the entrance of their hotel, Wang Tong felt even more guilty looking at the large golden characters on the door and the luxurious decoration inside. What are you standing there for? Come on. Xiong patted his head. Wang Tong was convinced by Xiong. Is there still the word guilty in this guy's dictionary? After asking the receptionist, Xiong and Wang Tong arrived at the door of the chairman's office on the 5th floor and found that there were already more than a dozen people sitting there, all waiting in line. The office door was tightly closed, and it seemed that someone was already talking inside. Suddenly, the door opened, and a boss with a thumb-thick gold chain around his neck walked out, looking dejected. A man next to him couldn't help but ask, "Brother, what's going on?" They wanted 120 million, but the deal was not reached. After hearing his words, there was a commotion among the people around. Some people stood up and left. After a while, most of them had left. Wang Tong's legs went weak and he almost fell. He initially thought that this hotel would cost at least 50 million, but who knew it would be more than double. Damn, 120 million. How dare Xiong stand here? Afterwards, everyone who went in came out dejected, and it seemed that no deal was reached. Inside the office, Xiamai tore the document in her hand into pieces and cursed loudly. Who are these people? The value of this hotel would have been at least 150 million half a year ago. They have the nerve to ask for 50 million? They are taking advantage of the situation. Xiamai said angrily. Okay, call the next person. Yaohua said lightly. Next one, Xiong. Chapter 0016, Love at First Sight. Next one, Xiong. Come in. Xiong patted Wang Tong's little shoulder. Wang Tong's legs went weak and he almost fell to the ground. Brother Xiong, just go in. I won't go in. He had never seen such a big scene in his life. He was usually a construction worker and had never experienced such an occasion. Then you just wait here. It is really too difficult to ask a cement worker to negotiate a business worth hundreds of millions. After knocking on the door, Xiong pushed it open and walked in. As soon as he entered, Xiong was dumbfounded. He stared at the woman in front of him and didn't react for a long time. What a beautiful lady. Is she really the mother of a 4 or 5-year-old child? Before entering, Xiong thought that he might see a woman with fat hips, thick waist, wrinkles all over her face, and several layers of foundation on her face. He never expected that she would be such a charming woman, who looked no more than 26 years old. Maybe because she has been married, she exudes a mature aura that makes people look deeply attracted to her. How could he know that while she was looking at Yaohua was also looking at him? She felt that he looked very familiar, but for a moment, she couldn't remember where she had seen him before. How much can you offer? Xiamai didn't want to waste time and asked directly. Xiong raised a finger. 100 million. That's reasonable. At least we can talk about it. Xiamai nodded, thinking that she finally met a decent person. Miss, you misunderstood. It's not 100 million. 10 million. Xiamai's face changed instantly. It was the first time she had seen such a shameless person. It's 1 million. Xiong corrected again. Rumble, like a bolt from the blue, exploding in Xiamai and Yaohua's minds. However, Xiamai was confused by the other party's offer, and Yaohua immediately remembered the source of the voice. Help, come and help. The moment I was rescued, that person's voice kept ringing in my mind, and it was so similar to this voice. Yaohua looked at Xiong's face and figure carefully. It's him, it must be him. It's really true that after searching everywhere for a long time, I finally found you without any effort. Yaohua felt her eyes getting moist. Mr. Xiong, are you sure you don't have a fever? Xiamai resisted the urge to smash the folder on the other person's head. Does this guy think Mingyang International Hotel is a garbage dump? 1 million can't even buy a room here. I don't have a fever. You women are the ones who get horny, especially when you meet a handsome man like me. Xiong shook his hair and said coolly. Who said men can't be horny? At this point, Xiamai suddenly realized that the fever he was talking about was not the fever caused by a cold, but was referring to women's sexual desire. This bastard, Xiamai was so angry that her face turned red. Mr. Du, this guy is not only mentally ill, but also has problems with his thinking. Let him go. Xiao cursed. But she didn't know that Yaohua didn't respond after she called out several times. She couldn't help but look over, and saw that Yaohua was staring at Xiong with moist eyes, wanting to say something but stopping herself, and she didn't hear what she said at all. Seeing Yaohua staring at him as if she had thousands of words to say but couldn't, Xiong suddenly became excited. I am indeed a genius. I guess that this kind of woman lacks the nourishment of love. Look, when she saw how handsome I am, she was so excited that tears were about to flow. Is this the legendary love at first sight? Mr. Du, are you feeling unwell? Xiao called out several times. Oh, I'm fine. Yaohua came back to her senses, quietly wiped the corners of her eyes, and said, I just came back from the hospital, and I'm not feeling well. By the way, Mr. Yi, where were we talking about just now? What else is there to talk about? This guy is offering 1 million. He must be sick in the brain. Xiao cursed. Xiao, don't be rude. If the price is not suitable, we can negotiate again. Yaohua said. A hotel worth over 100 million yuan is offered at 1 million yuan. Is there any room for negotiation on this price difference? Xiao almost cried. What happened to President Du? Was he really getting horny because of this handsome guy? Mr. Yi, it's like this. Your price is indeed ridiculously low. Can you increase it a little bit? Yaohua said gently. The other person was her savior, so even if he just said a few more words to her, she would be happy. I want to join, but I don't have any money. Xiong touched his head, thinking of how Yaohua was fascinated by him just now, and an idea came to him. How about this? Except for my lack of money, I'm pretty strong in other aspects. When you need me, I can do whatever you want me to do. After saying that, he winked at Yaohua and gave her a charming look, the subtext of which was, you know. Yaohua's face began to change. If the other party was not her savior, she would have asked the security guard to throw this shameless guy out. While in the hospital, she imagined countless times who would save her. I never expected it to be such a piece of stuff, and I was immediately very disappointed. Mr. Xiong, please watch your words. Respecting others is the same as respecting yourself. Yaohua was slightly angry. Xiong was stunned for a moment, thinking that maybe he was wrong and the other party was not interested in him. Yaohua was about to continue talking when the door of the room was suddenly kicked open and several tall men with tattoos walked in. As soon as a few men came in, they crossed their arms over their chests, looked up with their noses in the air, and looked extremely fierce, as if they were afraid that others didn't know how vicious they were. Boss Du, did you not take our brother Bao's words to heart? The leader, a tall and strong man with a very wide mouth, looked arrogant. Who let you in? Get out. Yaohua shouted angrily. You damn widow, I'm warning you again, this hotel has been booked by our brother Leopard, and you are not allowed to sell it to anyone else except him. The wide-mouthed man threatened. It's my hotel. I can transfer it to anyone I want. No one can interfere. You like to spin around, right? I'll beat up anyone who comes. That's what will happen to those people outside. The wide-mouthed man sneered. Upon hearing this, Xiong quickly stood up and ran to the door. All the people who came to participate in the bidding fell to the ground, screaming and screaming. It was obvious that they were beaten up by this group of people. Wang Tong fell to the ground, his life or death unknown. Wang Tong, wake up. Xiong rushed over quickly. Wang Tong opened his eyes and saw Xiong, and said anxiously, Brother Xiong, let's go quickly, these guys are not easy to deal with. Where did they hit you? Xiong asked. Don't worry about it for now, just carry me away first. Wang Tong said anxiously. I ask you, where did they hit you? Xiong yelled. This roar was like a sudden thunderclap, attracting everyone's attention. At this moment, Xiong felt an inexplicable surge of anger in his heart. He promised Aunt Wang that he would take good care of Wang Tong, but he didn't expect that not long after that, he would be beaten to the point where he couldn't get up. How could he swallow this humiliation? I got punched in the face and kicked twice in the stomach. Wang Tong answered, touching the red and swollen corners of his mouth. Who hit you? Xiong continued to ask. A mocking voice came from behind, I hit you, what? Do you have any objections? Chapter 0017 Hidden Rules. The person who spoke was a short man, who was looking at Xiong with a joking expression on his face, ignoring his angry flames. Xiong stood up and walked towards a group of big men. He doesn't know what's good for him. Show him some color, the wide-mouthed man shouted. At that moment, the short man stood up and punched Xiong hard in the face. Just when the fist was halfway out, a figure suddenly flashed in front of him. Before the short man could react, he was kicked hard in the stomach. The pain made him bend over. He didn't even know how the other party attacked him. "Brother lousy, you dare to fight me?" Xiong picked up the short man and slapped him dozens of times in a row. After the short man's face was swollen like a pig's head, he kicked him in the stomach and sent him flying several meters away. It only took a moment, and by the time the wide-mouthed man and his entourage reacted, the short man had already fainted. "You little bastard, do you know who we are? If you dare to offend us, you will definitely not have a good ending," the wide-mouthed man shouted loudly. "First of all, you guys didn't end well." Xiong strode forward, attacking left and right, fists flying. After a while, all the thugs around Kuozui fell to the ground, and none of them could get up. For Xiong, dealing with these garbage is no different from stepping on a few ants. "I'm warning you, we are Brother Bao's men from the Northwest Gang. If you dare to touch me, Brother Bao will not let you go." The wide-mouthed man witnessed Xiong's cruelty and quickly brought up Lu Bao's name. Bang! A slap hit him in the face, fanning his huge body in a circle. Xiong asked coldly, "What gang did you say you were from?" "Northwest Gang." Bang! Another slap on his face. Xiong asked again, "I didn't hear clearly just now, what gang are you from?" "West, North Gang." Bang! The third slap knocked out several of the wide-mouthed man's teeth. The wide-mouthed man finally understood that this guy was not afraid of the Northwest Gang at all, or rather, he was targeting people from the Northwest Gang. "Go back and tell He Bao and He Hadong that I will settle this account with them sooner or later," Xiong said coldly. "Who are you?" The wide-mouthed man was shocked. "Anyone who can talk to He Hadong like this must not be a simple person. Didn't He Hadong send people to turn Jiangnan City upside down to look for me? How come you have forgotten it so quickly?" Xiong sneered. The wide-mouthed man was shocked. He finally knew who this guy was. It was obviously the guy who disrupted his wedding. Later he heard that Scarface sent people to catch him, but they were severely beaten up. He didn't expect to meet him here. What bad luck! The wide-mouthed man touched his face and found that even the scarred man was not vulnerable to a blow. If he went down again, he would only be beaten, so he prepared to leave quietly. "You beat up my friend and you think you can get away so easily?" Xiong snorted coldly. "Brother Yi, what else do you want?" The wide-mouthed man turned around with a sad face. "Pay compensation." "How much compensation?" "Take out all the money you have." The wide-mouthed man had no choice but to take out the several $1,000s he had on him. He could only consider himself unlucky to have met this killer. "And you, take out everything." The men who fell to the ground had no choice but to take out their wallets. Xiong took away all their money, threw the wallets back at them, and shouted coldly, "Get lost." A group of hooligans crawled away. Xiong flicked the money in his hand and said to Wang Tong with a smile, "Brother, here are about 10,000 yuan, enough to buy medicine for injuries, right? It's enough to buy a bucket for taking a bath." Wang Tong was speechless. Those guys just now were quite rogue, but I didn't expect Xiong to be even more rogue than them. What shocked him even more was that Xiong was actually a master. Wang Tong really had misjudged him. Xiong turned around and found Yaohua and Xiaomai standing at the door of the office, staring at him with sharp eyes, as if they were looking at a monster. Suddenly, a feeling of pride came to his mind. Xiong couldn't help but lean against the wall, cross his chest with one hand, and toss his hair with the other hand. He made what he thought was the coolest move and grinned, "Two beauties, did you notice that I'm even more handsome now?" Puff. Xiaomai had never seen such a shameless man before, but she felt very happy when she saw Xiong beat those guys away. She had endured that group of people for a long time. "Mr. Du, I told you that you are strong in many aspects. I didn't lie to you, did I?" Xiong's gaze fell onto Yaohua, and finally stopped on her plump breasts. "Disgusting." Yaohua cursed. Although she said so, her expression did not look very unpleasant. "Let me correct you. Generally speaking, men are not vulgar, only women are. Have you ever read any books? Vulgar refers to men, not women. Xiaomai retorted. Who said there isn't? Women are naughty for a few days every month. Xiong laughed. Xiaomai thought about it and her face suddenly turned red. She swore that she had never seen such a shameless man in her life. Yaohua rolled her eyes at Xiong and said unhappily, "Come in, I want to talk to you." Xiaomai, take this gentleman to the infirmary and check his injuries. You met him alone. Xiaomai was dumbfounded. That's right, go quickly. You urged. But, given this guy's character, aren't you afraid that he might go berserk in the office and... How can you talk like that, little girl? Xiong interrupted Xiaomai and said unhappily, Boss Du didn't say anything, why are you talking so loudly? Oh, I see, you must be jealous. Seeing that Boss Du is interested in me, you feel unbalanced. Even if all the men in the world died, I would not be interested in you. Look at you. Xiaomai looked at him with contempt. My name is Xiong, so of course I look masculine. How can I be like you, Xiaomai, who looks unlucky? You? Xiaomai was completely speechless. She didn't expect Xiong to be so vicious. He walked up to Wang Tong angrily and shouted, Little bean, let's go. You're acting like you're so proud of yourself by calling me a little kid. Wang Tong pouted and replied unhappily. Just taller than you. Take off your high heels and try it. Wang Tong pointed at her heels, which were more than 10 centimeters high. If you don't leave, I won't care about you anymore. Xiaomai was angry. The two of them left while bickering. After they left, Xiong laughed and said to Yaohua, Boss Du, let's go in. Okay. After entering, Yaohua turned around and locked the room to prevent outsiders from entering. Seeing this, Xiong further confirmed his guess that this beautiful female boss must have been attracted by his aura and was preparing to take advantage of him. Well, although I am not a casual man, I can bear to refuse him because he was so sincere. Xiong began to take off his clothes. Chapter 0018 How to Thank Me. Just as he was halfway through taking off his clothes, an angry voice shouted, What are you doing? Why are you so excited? We are all adults, and we should get what we want. Xiong continued to undress, and soon took off his shirt, revealing his muscular body. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone that you took advantage of me. Vile. Yaohua cursed, staring at him and yelling, Put on your clothes quickly, or I will be rude. Xiong glanced at Yaohua and saw that her eyes were wide open and seemed to be bursting with fire. It seemed that she was really angry. He quickly put on his clothes and asked weakly, Boss Du, what are you doing? I'm asking you why you're making such a fuss. Why are you taking off your clothes? Who do you think I am? A street prostitute. Yaohua said angrily. I don't treat you as a street prostitute, but as an unsatisfied woman in the boudoir. Xiong only dared to complain about these words in his heart and would never dare to say them out loud even if he was beaten to death. Boss Du, I thought you. You thought that my man died and I became an unsatisfied woman in the boudoir, thinking you could take advantage of the situation. Yaohua's tears flowed down her eyes. Xiong didn't expect her to cry in the blink of an eye. It was totally beyond his expectation. He hurriedly explained, That's not what I meant, it's just. Alas, I don't know how to say it. Just say it. Yaohua took out a tissue and wiped her tears. Then I'll be frank with you. Your hotel must be worth at least hundreds of millions, right? Xiong asked. You also know that it means hundreds of millions, and you still ask for 1 million. Yaohua said angrily. That's right. So many people came in to negotiate with you just now, but you didn't talk to them for half a minute. Instead, you were interested in me, a guy with only 1 million, and you talked to me so happily. I don't have any advantages, except that I'm handsome. Think about it, in this situation, how can I not have some bad thoughts? Xiong explained. Puff. Yaohua couldn't help but burst out laughing. If you think about it carefully, this guy's explanation doesn't seem to be unreasonable. You really don't recognize me. Yaohua saw the puzzled look in Xiong's eyes and continued to remind him, 1 week ago, Jianxi Avenue. Xiong's eyes fell on Yaohua's face, and a light bulb suddenly lit up in his head, and he immediately understood. It turned out that this girl was the woman he rescued from the Porsche sports car that day. He was in a hurry at the time and her face was covered in blood, so he didn't recognize her at first. But now after listening to her, he finally remembered. It turns out it's you. Xiong suddenly realized. So, the reason why people talked to him for so long was not because of his arrogance, nor because he was handsome and wanted to take advantage of him, but just because he was their savior. I thought the man who saved me and left quietly must be a hero, but I didn't expect that. Yaohua didn't continue speaking. Her disappointment could be heard from her omitted tone. Bostu, I worked so hard to get you out of the car. You don't know how frightening it was. I barely escaped death. Xiong pointed at Jiang Shan, spitting. If it weren't for me, you would have definitely died. So, shouldn't you show your gratitude? What do you want? Yaohua had a bad feeling. To thank me for saving your life, should you transfer the hotel to me? Of course, I won't let you give it away for free. You still have to pay me, my 1 million. That's enough. Yaohua felt that she would go crazy if she continued listening. With just 1 million, he wanted to buy a hotel worth more than 100 million. He had never seen such a shameless man in his life. Could he be more shameless? I have an idea. I don't want to transfer the hotel for the time being. You can help me manage the hotel in the future. Your 1 million will be regarded as investment fee. If the hotel makes money, I will give you 20% commission of the profit. If it doesn't make money, your 1 million will be wasted. How about it? Yaohua asked. Well, 20%, isn't that too little? Xiong thought for a moment and held up 5 fingers, half for each. Okay, just as you say. Ever since her husband's death, people have often come to sabotage Feiyang International Hotel. Now, they have lost 80% of their customers and are losing money every day. If Xiong can turn the hotel's losses around and turn it into profits, it would be no problem for him to split the profits in half. Mr. Du, words are not enough. Should we sign a contract? Xiong took out a contract from behind and handed it over like a magic trick. Yaohua took a look and her face changed drastically. This contract turned out to be a management contract, which stated that Xiong would take over the management of the hotel and that the two parties would share any profits in the future. However, there were some blank spaces that needed to be filled in. It turns out that this guy's purpose was to get the management rights of the hotel. It seems that I underestimated this guy. Yaohua smiled and readily filled in the profit distribution and transfer documents of management rights, but she still reserved her highest right, which was that if the hotel was not profitable, she could fire Xiong at any time. When Yaohua finished writing the last signature, Xiong picked up the contract and couldn't help laughing. It's time to distribute the vegetables. This time, it's the big vegetables. Xiong was crazy. Don't be too happy too soon. Let me tell you, the hotel is now in a state of loss. If things go wrong, your 1 million will be wasted. Yaohua reminded in advance. Mr. Du, how about we make a bet? Xiong said with a grin. What's the bet? Within 3 months, I will turn the hotel from loss to profit, and you will agree to one of my requests. Xiong said. What request? Yaohua didn't believe he could do it at all. Xiong glanced at her mature and charming face. This kind of young woman is the most lethal to a young man like him. He originally asked her to sleep with him for 1 night, but he felt that this request was too shameless, so he changed it to, I win, you kiss me. Disgusting. Yaohua cursed. Why, you don't dare anymore. Are you afraid that you will fall in love with me after kissing me? Xiong laughed. Who dares? Just kiss me. Yaohua didn't believe she would lose. What if you can't do it? If I can't do it, I will sleep with you for 1 night unconditionally and for free. Xiong said very seriously. Roll. Yaohua threw a folder at him fiercely. When leaving Yaohua's office, Xiong already had a contract in his hand, his face beaming with joy. When Wang Tong was found, he was having a great chat with Xiaomai. The two of them were laughing and they looked quite close. Am I here at the wrong time? Xiong walked into the treatment room with a wicked smile on his face. Seeing Xiong coming in, Xiaomai quickly stopped smiling and said, Little Bean, I'm leaving first. Goodbye, Har. Wang Tong waved his hand with a showy look on his face. It's only been a short time, how come the relationship between the two of them has become so close? Xiong thought he was very good at picking up girls, but he didn't expect that compared with Wang Tong, he was nothing. You're so good, little brat. You can even conquer Xiaomai, who suffers from menopausal syndrome. You have to admit defeat. Look at how flirtatious she was just now, and how she seemed to be in a state of sexual excitement. Xiong chuckled. Chapter 0019 Hello Mr. Yi. My appears to be a little fierce, but that's just a mask she wears to protect herself. In fact, she is a very gentle person in private, said Wang Tong. My, look at you, such a crazy fan. Xiong almost got goosebumps. It had only been a short time and the two of them had become so attached to each other. That's how I call her when I'm careful. Wang Tong said. When I was a kid. When I first met her, I thought she looked familiar. After chatting for a while, I found out that we lived in the same village when we were young and lived next door to each other. At that time, she had a runny nose all day and followed me around like a follower. Talking about the past, Wang Tong was beaming with joy and talking eloquently, looking very excited. Later, her father made money and moved back to the city, and we never met again. What a cliché plot, but God lets you meet again, which means you still have a chance to renew your relationship. Xiong said. It's a pity that she is now Yaohua's secretary, with a monthly salary of over 10,000 yuan, while I am just an unemployed person living in a shabby mud house. I am not worthy of her at all. After Wang Tong finished speaking, a gloomy look appeared on his face. Don't underestimate yourself. What's the big deal about a monthly salary of over 10,000? You still make 50,000 a month. Xiong said seriously. Brother Xiong, stop joking. I'd be so happy if I could earn 5,000 yuan a month. Look at my face. Do I look like I'm joking? Xiong pointed at his serious face and said seriously, Comrade Wang Tong, as the general manager of Mingyang International Hotel, I now officially hire you with a monthly salary of 50,000. Do you accept it? You took down Mingyang International, how is that possible? Wang Tong's eyes widened, he could hardly believe his ears. The contract has been signed, and there are fake ones. Xiong waved the contract in his hand and said with a smile, you just need to tell me, do you accept it or not? Only a fool would not accept it. Wang Tong took the contract, read it through, and a look of worry appeared on his originally happy face. Brother Xiong, this is a hot potato. Is it possible to start making a profit in 3 months? Ever since the death of the boss of Mingyang International, their hotel has been running at a loss. Yaohua loses hundreds of thousands every month, and Wang Tong is worried that Xiong's 1 million will also be wasted. That's something I should consider. You just need to take your salary. Xiong patted his head and said, work harder and catch up with Lu Mai. When you two get married, Brother Xiong will give you a big red envelope. Brother Xiong, I will definitely work hard. Wang Tong nodded firmly. Next, Yaohua called all the employees of Mingyang Hotel to a meeting. From their hotel's senior management to the lower-level dishwashers and waiters, there are less than 50 people left. A large hotel like this that integrates catering and entertainment needs at least several hundred people to be fully staffed. This shows how streamlined the staff is now. It can be said that hotels nowadays are basically useless and these people are just wasting their time. Yaohua then announced that the management of their hotel would be taken over by Xiong. The people off their field just glanced at Xiong and pretended not to see anything. Over the past 6 months, their hotel has had at least 8 general managers, if not 10. None of them could last more than a month, and they all packed up and left on their own accord. As a result, these people have become numb. Next, our newly appointed general manager of the hotel, Xiong, will give a speech. Please applaud. Yaohua shouted. Snap snap. Occasionally, a lifeless and listless voice came from below. Xiong glanced at these gloomy employees, and a familiar feeling came to his mind. Thinking back to when he was the instructor of Dragon Soul, it was much harder to lead a group of new recruits than it was with this group of guys, but in the end they were still obedient just the same. Those special forces were the strongest special forces selected from the barracks in various provinces of the entire Chinese country. They were very tricky, weren't they? Yet, they were trained by Xiong and became obedient and did what he said. Xiong walked to the podium, looked at the dozens of listless guys below, and began to give his speech. Hello everyone, my name is Xiong, and I will be your general manager from now on. What I need from people is very simple, that is, absolute obedience. Now, everyone, please shout the slogan with me. Hello, General Manager Yi. 1, 2, 3, start. Hello, Mr. Yi. A few voices were heard here and there, but less than half of the people spoke. You, and you, all stand up. Xiong walked into the crowd, pointed out the people who had spoken out one by one, and then said, "The rest of you, go to the finance department to settle the bill, you bastards." At this moment, those who did not shout slogans panicked. Although the salary here was not much, it was comfortable. If they could not work for a day, they could just muddle through it. Who would want to run away? "Mr. Yi, I just shouted slogans," a security guard said anxiously. "Calling you sister, do you think I'm blind?" Xiong slapped him on the head. This time he got angry, and the security guard was so scared that he dared not say a word. The rest of the people were even more afraid to speak, because they didn't understand how this guy managed to screen out every single one of them when dozens of people were shouting slogans together. "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Shout the slogan again. Whoever doesn't shout will be kicked out." Xiong put his hands behind his back, looking like a leader inspecting the scene, and shouted, "Shout. Hello, Mr. Yi. Shout again. Hello, Mr. Yi. General Yi." Xiong took the lead in shouting. "General Yi. Hello, Mr. Yi. Mr. Yi is handsome. Mr. Yi is great. Hello, Mr. Yi. Mr. Yi is handsome. Mr. Yi is great." Xiong walked among the people, feeling so comfortable. It turns out that being a general manager feels so great. Yaohua, who was standing next to him, couldn't bear to look at it. This was the first time she had seen such a shameless man in her life. If she hadn't taken into consideration that Xiong had just taken office and given him some face, she would have turned around and left long ago. At this moment, a group of big men suddenly rushed in from outside. They came with a fierce momentum, and it was obvious from their appearance that they were up to no good. The leader was a man with short hair, a thumb-thick necklace around his neck, and big gold teeth in his mouth. Next to him, on the left stood the broad-mouthed man Niu Deng, and on the right stood the scarred man. Just from his demeanor, one could tell who this man was. This person must be He Donghao's #1 girlfriend, Lu Bao, the leader of the Northwest gang who depends on the He family for survival. What a grand style! Lu Bao's eyes fell on Xiong, full of provocation. "No way. I have dozens of people, but how can it compare to you having dozens of dogs?" Xiong glanced at the dozens of people behind him and fought back fiercely. "Fuck, who are you calling a dog? Stinky boy, never died. Beat him so hard that his mother won't recognize him. I've never seen such an arrogant person." A group of hooligans made a lot of noise and roared angrily, but unfortunately, no one dared to take action. You know, Lu Bao's two men, Niu Deng and Scarface, were beaten black and blue by Xiong, and they didn't even have the ability to resist. "I am just so arrogant. If you don't agree, come and hit me." Xiong took out a ballpoint pen from his pocket and put it in his lips to smoke. Chapter 0020, Fighting, Never Afraid. A group of hooligans looked at each other. Having been in the Taoist circle for so many years, they have seen many crazy people, but they have never seen anyone as crazy as this. Outside, they thought they were already very crazy, but compared with this guy, they knew what crazy really meant. Facing dozens of people, he said, "If you don't agree, hit me. There is no one else like him in the whole Jiangnan city. Come on, all of you. Beat him so hard that his mother won't recognize him anymore." Lu Bao waved his hand, and dozens of hooligans rushed towards Xiong fiercely. What a hot scene! The people around had already run away in fear and hid far away. Even Yaohua hid in the corner, terrified. At this moment, Xiong suddenly made a strange move. I saw him take off his clothes, roll them around in his hands again, and wrap himself tightly. "Do you think you can't cut it off if you wrap your hands with clothes?" Lu Bao laughed. Just as he finished speaking, Xiong suddenly dodged a knife and punched the gangster in front hard. There was a dull thud, and the gangster flew backwards, rolling on the ground for a few rounds before stopping. He foamed at the mouth and didn't get up for a long time. "You are wrong. I'm not afraid of having my hands chopped off. I'm afraid of accidentally killing someone." Xiong sneered. The people around were stunned. It took a lot of strength to send a person flying 5 or 6 meters with one punch. If he hadn't covered his fist with clothes, he would have killed the person with one punch. Hiss! A group of hooligans gasped and dared not come up. This guy is really good at fighting. Xiong was very satisfied with the effect. He took off the clothes wrapped around his hands and smiled and hooked his finger. Who else is coming? Seeing him take off his clothes, a group of hooligans instinctively stepped back. This guy's punches were more damaging than a knife attack. Is he still human? Is he cheating? Lu Bao's face turned pale. He had known that Xiong was a good fighter, but he didn't expect him to be so powerful. But no matter how powerful the enemy is, he cannot retreat, because the Northwest Gang depends on the He family for survival. This guy not only messed up He Xiao's wedding, but also interfered with the hotel that He Xiao was determined to own. If he doesn't teach him a lesson, how can he go back and explain to He Haodong? No matter how good he is at fighting and how good he is at blocking a knife, grab your weapons and kill him. A hint of cruelty flashed in Lu Bao's eyes. Bang, bang, bang. Dozens of knife-like controlled tools were pulled out, and white light flashed, illuminating the entire hall. The people around screamed and ran away when they saw the tools, fearing that they would be implicated. Look, the police are here. Xiong suddenly pointed behind him and shouted. A group of gangsters instinctively looked back, even Lu Bao was no exception. At this moment, Xiong suddenly moved, like a tiger, and rushed through the crowd. By the time people reacted, Xiong had already grabbed Lu Bao and dragged him out. Shameless, so shameless. He actually lied to us and took the opportunity to arrest the boss. Let our boss go. A group of hooligans realized they were being tricked and started shouting loudly, but Lu Bao had already fallen into Xiong's hands, so they didn't dare to act rashly for the moment. If you dare to touch a hair on my head, you will definitely not end up well. Lu Bao said anxiously. Xiong suddenly grabbed his hair and pulled it hard, causing Lu Bao to scream in pain. There are at least hundreds of hairs here. Let me see what will happen to me. Xiong spread out his palms and blew with his mouth, and a bunch of hair was blown to the ground. I will kill you. Lu Bao roared angrily. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his neck and a thin knife was pressed against his throat. Say what you just said again. Xiong sneered. After all, Lu Bao has been in the underworld for more than a decade, and he has a group of brothers watching him. If he shows any fear at this moment, how can he continue to be the boss in the future? He immediately raised his head and shouted fearlessly, "You little bastard, I don't believe you dare to kill me. Killing people is against the law. I don't dare to kill anyone, but I'm afraid my hands might shake accidentally and I might end up cutting your neck. That would be bad." As Xiong spoke, he exerted force with his hand and made a light stroke. A blood mark immediately appeared on Lu Bao's neck, and blood dripped onto the ground. Lu Bao was so scared that he never thought that this guy was so crazy that he dared to cut his own neck. Seeing that his own man's neck was about to be cut off, Lu Bao could not help but scream. Don't kill me, please, don't kill me. Faced with such a madman, Lu Bao did not dare to show off his strength. Let them throw away their knives and get out. Xiong ordered coldly. Throw away the knife and leave the hotel. Lu Bao ordered hurriedly. Bang, bang, bang. The knives were thrown all over the ground, and the group of thugs turned around and left, disappearing in a moment. Xiong then pushed Lu Bao away and kicked him on the butt, knocking him to the ground. He then said coldly, Lu Bao, I'm putting this on hold. If you dare to send people to mess up Mingyang International again, I will have your Northwest Gang removed from Jiangnan City. Believe it or not, I believe it anyway, so get out of here. Lu Bao covered his bleeding neck, dared not say a word, and ran away quickly. Bang bang bang. I don't know who started the applause, but suddenly the whole venue burst into warm applause. These people looked at Xiong with passionate eyes. Yaohua walked out from the crowd with fiery eyes. She didn't expect Xiong to be so powerful. The entire Northwest Gang was beaten to a pulp by him. At first she was worried that Xiong would not be able to cope with the situation. After all, she had hired more than a dozen general managers, but none of them lasted long. They were all driven away by Lu Bao using various means. Unexpectedly, Xiong became famous as soon as he arrived. It seems that Mingyang International Hotel really has a chance to regain its glory. Just when she was looking at Xiong with new eyes, Xiong suddenly jumped onto the podium, waved his arms and shouted, "Isn't it Marshal Yi? Handsome?" The people off their field answered in unison. "Is Mr. Yi cool? Cool. Is Ms. Du pretty? Pretty. Puff." Yaohua couldn't hold back her laughter any longer. This guy is so annoying. Even if he is shameless, why did he drag him up? Seeing Du Yuhua smile, everyone in the audience was surprised. It was the first time they saw the female boss smile since Wan Jingyang's death. Thanks to his stunning success, Yi Xiong's subsequent work became easy and the implementation went smoothly. Within half a day, the news spread throughout the hotel that the new general manager was handsome, cool and a good fighter. Of course, these are the words that reached Yi Xiong's ears. In fact, the original words were, "The general manager is shameless, insidious, vulgar and shameless." The handover went smoothly. When Du Yuhua put a thick table of information in front of him, Yi Xiong was overwhelmed. "What is this?" Yi Xiong said with a bitter face. "This is the financial statement and the hotel's operating conditions over the past few months. From it you can see how you should operate a hotel next," Du Yuhua explained. "Sister Hua, can I discuss something with you?" Yi Xiong asked seriously. "What's up?" "I want to quit. Can you give me back the 1 million? Chapter 0021. Let's do it together." "Why?" Du Yuhua asked curiously. "I'll go crazy if I keep reading these documents." What Yi Xiong feared most in his life was work like these documents. Those things made him feel overwhelmed. "How about this, let's do it together," Du Yuhua said after thinking for a while. Yi Xiong's mouth suddenly opened into an O shape, and he said excitedly, "Okay, let's do it together, work hard, and do it vigorously, so that the sky will collapse and the earth will crack." A blush spread across Du Yuhua's face and all the way to the base of her neck. This guy always thinks of things in a crooked way. Does he have any moral integrity? "When I say do, I don't mean do, I mean do," Du Yuhua explained quickly. "That's what I meant, Sister Hua, are you thinking the wrong thing?" Du Yuhua was speechless. She felt that if she continued talking to this guy, she would go crazy. Wouldn't this guy die if he didn't think wrongly about what others said? Next, the two discussed the management of the hotel. After some bargaining, all the clerical affairs of the company finally fell on Du Yuhua. Except for security, Yi Xiong ignored everything. Of course, Yi Xiong still has to keep track of the financial aspects, as that is related to his income and he can't ignore it. In the following days, Du Yuhua was extremely busy. She recruited people, advertised, notified friends, and she tried her best to do everything that would help the hotel get on track. In the past, due to the disruption caused by the Northwest Gang, no matter what she did, she could not get anything done. Now with Yi Xiong, the rogue Saint Buddha, here, the Northwest Gang dare not cause trouble anymore, and she is now full of energy. On the other hand, Yi Xiong has basically nothing to do during the day except wearing a suit, strolling around the hotel in a respectable manner, and enjoying the employees calling him, "Hello, Mr. Yi. This hands-off boss is having such a comfortable life." In the afternoon, Yi Xiong received a call from Yarn Sini and then he remembered that Yarn Sini asked him to move back home. He also had to have dinner with his father-in-law tonight. Yi Xiong still obeyed his cheap wife's words, after all, he was the one receiving her salary. Thinking about meeting his father-in-law tonight, Yi Xiong ran directly into Du Yuhua's office for fear of being laughed at, and said with a grin, "Sister Hua, I have something to discuss with you." "Speak." Du Yuhua didn't even raise her head. "Tonight, can I borrow your car to show off, oh no, to move house?" Yi Xiong asked. Du Yuhua didn't even raise her head, she took out a pair of car keys from the drawer and threw them on the table. "This is your special car from now on." Yi Xiong was so excited, thinking how nice this boss was, he even provided him with a private car. When he thought of Du Yuhua's Porsche worth tens of millions that was damaged, he thought of his own private car, which should be at least an Audi or BMW worth hundreds of thousands. When his eyes fell on the car key, he was stunned. It was the key to a broken Volkswagen. Just make do with it. At least a Volkswagen worth hundreds of thousands isn't too embarrassing, Yi Xiong thought. But when he walked to the carport and saw the car, he was completely dumbfounded. The key of Volkswagen was paired with a broken jetter. The antique appearance and long front of the car made him feel like he was going to collapse. "Mr. Du, at least I am the general manager of the famous international hotel. Is it appropriate for me to drive such a junky car?" Yi Xiong called and asked angrily. "If you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else," Du Yuhua asked indifferently on the other end of the phone. "It's better than driving a broken motorcycle," Yi Xiong said quickly. After driving his broken jetter back to the rental house and packing up his things, Yi Xiong went to Yarn Sini's villa. Just as he entered the villa, a middle-aged woman came over and said, "My son-in-law is here. The lady is waiting for you in the living room. I'll move the stuff up first." Xiong walked to the back of the car, carried out several large sacks of things, and prepared to walk towards the villa. "Son-in-law, the lady has prepared everything you need. You don't need to move these things in," said the middle-aged woman. "Why not?" Xiong asked curiously. The middle-aged woman glanced at the dirty and old sacks, as if they were dug out from some garbage dump. Her eyes clearly said, "Is there any need to ask?" With the young lady's cleanliness, she would definitely not let such dirty things into the villa. Xiong had sharp eyes and understood it immediately, but as if he didn't see it, he carried the sack on his shoulder and walked into the hall of the villa. In the past 2 years, this sack has accompanied him across the country, and he has been to countless cities. He has developed feelings for the sack, so how can he just throw it away? "Son-in-law, you can't bring this thing in." When the woman saw Xiong carrying the sack in, she hurriedly stopped him. Xiong ignored her and quickly walked into the villa. At this time, Yang was sitting on the sofa in the hall of the villa. She frowned when she saw Xiong coming in carrying a sack. "Stop. Wife, what's wrong?" Xiong's eyes lit up. Today, Yang wore a set of professional white-collar clothes, which fully showed off her perfect and slender body. She had a curvy figure, skin as white as jade, hair as drooping willows, and a pair of eyes as clear as the full moon in autumn. Especially that slightly angry look, which is extremely charming, so enchanting. "Who is your first wife? Be careful with your words." Yang raised her eyebrows. "You are my legal wife, so of course you are the eldest. In the future, I will have a second wife, a third wife, a fourth wife. I plan to form a football team." Xiong laughed. Seeing his heartless and cynical appearance, Yang showed a hint of disgust in her eyes, but she still maintained a good manners and at least did not lose her temper in front of the servants. "Aunt Zhang, please go out first." "Yes." After the servant Zhongshan left, Yang looked at the sack on Xiong's shoulder and said, "You can't bring this sack into the villa. Throw it away. If you need anything, just tell Aunt Zhang and she will buy it for you. Over the past 2 years, this sack has accompanied me across the country, and I have gone through countless storms and vicissitudes. I have developed feelings for it. How can you just throw it away?" Xiong flatly refused. 10,000. Yang said lightly. "It's not about the money. This sack is like a brother to me. 20,000. Deal." Xiong made a prompt decision. Yang rolled her eyes. It was the first time she had seen such a shameless person. Thinking that they were together because of an agreement, and that she would have to ask him for help in dealing with her father and Heidong in the future, she decided to endure it. "I've arranged a job for you as a security manager in a large company. You should do a good job and don't embarrass me." Yang said. "Thank you for your concern, my wife. I have found a job." Xiong said with a grin. "What job?" "The general manager of a hotel." Xiong said proudly. "Which hotel?" Yang asked curiously. How could anyone recruit someone like Xiong as general manager? That was impossible, so she thought Xiong was lying at the first moment. "Keep it a secret." "No, I must know about your job and every aspect of him. Otherwise, when Dad asks me about it, I won't know how to answer." Yang said firmly. Mingyang International Hotel. Xiong had no choice but to tell the truth. Chapter 0022 Living Together. "What, Mingyang International Hotel?" Yang was surprised and said quickly, "Heidong is determined to get that hotel. If you become the general manager, you will be doomed. Thank you for your concern, my wife. He's just a clown. I can handle him." Xiong said. Seeing that Xiong was so persistent, Yang had no choice. They had agreed before they got married not to interfere with each other's work and life, and she had no right to interfere with Xiong's life. "When will my father-in-law see me?" Xiong asked. "My dad has something urgent to do and is not back from abroad yet. Let's talk later. Then I'll go upstairs first." Xiong said and walked upstairs. Xiong's room is right next to Yang. This is because Yang was afraid that her parents would know about her fake marriage, so she let Xiong live next to her in case of emergency. "Damn, this room is too big." Looking at the luxuriously decorated room, Xiong threw himself onto the big bed, feeling indescribably comfortable. If I could roll around with my first wife on such a big bed, it would be worth it even if I had to live a few years less. Xiong couldn't help but say. Just after he finished speaking, he noticed a figure standing at the door. Who else could it be but Yang Sini? When Yang Sini heard Xiong say that he wanted to have sex with her, her face suddenly became very ugly. Her eyes, on that icy face, contained a murderous look. I'm seriously warning you, this is just a deal between us. If you dare to have any thoughts about me, I will make you die in an uglier way. Yang Sini said hatefully. It's just talk, it's not illegal. Xiong shrugged. No way. Then I've made up my mind. Faced with such a scoundrel, Yang Sini had no way to deal with it. Next, she made 3 rules with Xiong, listing more than a dozen things that were not allowed, which were nothing more than that Xiong was not allowed to enter her room, use her bathtub, go home after midnight, or bring back women. Afraid that he would not remember, Yang Sini put a piece of paper on the table and said, "It is written clearly on it, in black and white, read it carefully, otherwise don't blame me for not reminding you later." Xiong tore the paper into pieces without even looking at it. "Mr. Yi, what do you mean?" Yang Sini's face changed instantly. She spent a lot of time to make that contract, and every clause was carefully considered. None of them was excessive. Now Xiong tore up the contract in front of her, which made her very embarrassed. Xiong threw the paper ball, and it drew a beautiful curve in the air and landed in the wastebasket. Then he said seriously, "Do you think a piece of paper can really trap a person's thoughts? For example, if you don't allow me to enter your room, it's possible that I get drunk and go in to violate you. At that time, who would remember the damn agreement? You are not allowed to drink." Yang Sini said quickly. "The safest way is to remember to lock the door when you sleep. I don't need you to remind me. I know it naturally. Wife, if you have nothing else to do, please go ahead. I still need to rest well and I have to pick up girls at work tomorrow." Yang Sini rolled her eyes, turned and walked out of Xiong's room. After returning to the room, she locked the door tightly. She still felt unsafe, so she decided to ask someone to come over tomorrow to install more locks to prevent that dirty guy from having any chance to take advantage. The next morning, Xiong got up very early. "Son-in-law, it's time for breakfast." Aunt Zhang greeted with a smile. "Thank you, Aunt Zhang. Let's eat together," Xiong said with a smile. "I have already eaten, enjoy your meal, son-in-law," Aunt Zhang said and walked out. Xiong walked to the restaurant and found that the breakfast was quite rich, with milk, bread, eggs, millet porridge, meat slices, and everything else. The life of rich people is different. Picking up a glass of milk, Xiong took a sip, then remembered that he had forgotten to take his car keys, so he went upstairs to get them. "I just returned to the room and happened to see Yang Sini coming out of the room." "Good morning, my dear wife," Xiong greeted. "I'm seriously warning you, don't call me my first wife." Yang Sini's face turned cold again. "If I don't call you my first wife, should I call you my second wife?" Yang Sini didn't bother to pay attention to him, rolled her eyes and walked past him. What she hates most in her life is men who are talkative, heartless, and lack maturity and stability. Such men will never achieve anything in their lives. I don't know what was wrong with me at that time, but I actually chose him for a fake marriage. Xiong shrugged and went back to his room to get the key. When he went downstairs, he found Yang Sini sitting in the seat he had just sat, picking up the milk she had drunk and preparing to drink it. "Wife, don't make any noise while you eat. But if you have anything to say, let's talk after we finish eating," Yang Sini said coldly. This guy is like a dog that can't spit out ivory. She was afraid that if he made a sound, she would lose her appetite. Well, Xiong had no choice but to sit opposite her, eating while looking at Yang Sini, wondering whether he should tell her the truth. Yang Sini ate slowly and elegantly, without making any sound during the whole process, showing her good upbringing. On the other hand, Xiong wolfed down his food, and the two had very different eating styles. Due to Yang Sini's prior statement, Xiong remained silent while eating. Yang Sini was full, so she drank some milk and asked, "What did you want to say just now?" Xiong pointed at the glass of milk in front of her and said, "Wife, you just drank my milk." Yang Sini froze, looked down at her cup, and her face instantly turned red all the way to her neck, with murderous eyes. "I wanted to remind you, but you said you couldn't talk while eating, so I had to wait until you finished drinking before telling you. Actually, I didn't drink much, just one sip. Xiong said slowly. Yang Sini covered her mouth and quickly ran to the bathroom. After a while, she heard the sound of violent vomiting. She vomited so hard that the sky turned upside down and the sun and moon lost their light. I just drank some water. I'm not pregnant. Is there any need to react so strongly? Xiong said with contempt. Yang Sini rushed out of the bathroom, holding a kitchen knife in her hand, and pounced on him fiercely. Oh my god. Xiong grabbed the car keys on the table, fled out of the villa quickly, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yang Sini's roar could be heard from far behind. You bastard, I'm going to chop you to death, oh. Driving a broken jetter, Xiong returned to Feiyang International Hotel and started a new day of work. Good morning, Mr. Yi. Xiaohong, the receptionist, greeted. Xiaohong, you are so beautiful today. This short skirt is so charming. Really? I was afraid that this skirt was too short. Xiaohong blinked her big eyes. I think it's too long. Mr. Yi is so mean. If it's any shorter, he'll see everything. Little Red Leaf said coquettishly. Let me try and see if I can see it. Xiong was leaning against the front desk, chatting happily with the receptionist girl Xiaohong. Chapter 0023 Leave it to me. Yaohua came in from outside the hotel and saw Xiong teasing the receptionist. Her face immediately fell. I have been working so hard these past 2 days and haven't gotten much sleep, but he still has time to flirt with beautiful women. Xiong, come to my office. Yaohua ordered. This is my phone number. Call me sometimes and we can talk. Xiong quietly handed Xiaohong a note, then followed Yaohua into her office. After entering the office, Yaohua's face fell and she glared at Xiong hatefully. Sister Hua, don't look so frowned, it will cause wrinkles easily. Xiong ignored Yaohua's gaze and laughed. Seeing his heartless look, Yaohua couldn't help but smile bitterly. Don't move, it's like this. Xiong stood up, pointed at Yaohua's wry smile, and said seriously, Sister Hua, didn't I tell you how charming you are when you smile? Puff. Yaohua couldn't help laughing, her breasts were huge and her smile was very charming. Xiong swallowed hard. Damn, this young woman was too tempting. If it weren't for his strong will, he would have been unable to resist and pounce on her and do things worse than an animal. Don't talk nonsense, just work hard. Yaohua was about to say work hard, but she was afraid that he would think of something wrong again, so she quickly changed her words and said, work hard and improve the hotel's performance, and you will get dividends when the time comes. Sister Hua, I will do my best until you are satisfied. Xiong laughed like a big-tailed wolf. Yaohua was speechless again. His true nature was revealed in just 3 sentences. This guy just loved telling dirty jokes. Don't have any ambiguous relationships with some of your employees in the future. After all, you are the general manager of a big hotel. Even though you are incompetent for the position, you still have to be aware of the impact, Yaohua reminded. Sister Hua, I will never do it during work hours again. What this guy means is that you can do whatever you want after get off work. Yaohua was speechless for a moment. She waved her hand, ready to let him go out, when she suddenly felt dizzy. Sister Hua, are you okay? Yaohua was just about to say that it was okay when she suddenly felt dizzy and almost fell to the ground. Xiong ran over at the right time, held her in his arms, and pressed hard on several acupoints on her head. After a while, Yaohua woke up slowly and found herself being held. A masculine scent entered her nose, making her face flush instantly. She hasn't been so close to a man for more than half a year since her husband died. Being held by Xiong at this moment, her heart felt like being bumped by a deer. She felt fear and desire at the same time. However, the unique modesty of a woman still made her struggle to sit up. Maybe I'm too tired these 2 days. It's nothing. Thank you. Yaohua pushed Xiong away. Xiong hugged Yaohua, the fragrance of a mature woman stimulated his desire, but at this moment, he had no intention of taking advantage of her, but became a little worried. I'll take you to the hospital. Xiong made a prompt decision. No, it's fine. This is a matter that can be big or small. How can you not check it? Have you forgotten that you were hit by a car? Xiong said seriously. This was the first time Yaohua saw Xiong's face so serious. She discovered that when Xiong was serious, he had a unique charm, which made him much more attractive than his usual heartless appearance. Without waiting for her to agree, Xiong picked her up and walked outside. Xiong, please put me down and let me walk by myself. Du Yuhua said anxiously. She was a married woman. If someone saw her being carried out of the office by Xiong, how would she maintain her dignity in the future? Can you do it? Believe me. Xiong put her down. Du Yuhua tidied up her messy hair and then went back to Xiong and said, let's go. Half an hour later, Xiong and Du Yuhua went to the hospital. After a full body checkup, they found out that he had fainted because his body had not recovered from the car accident, his blood sugar was too low, and he was overworked. It was nothing serious. The doctor said not to work too hard. Did you hear me? Xiong breathed a sigh of relief and said seriously. How dare you say that? If you weren't so happy being the hands-off boss, I would have fainted from exhaustion. Du Yuhua rolled her eyes at him. Although she said so, she didn't really care. She just hoped that Xiong would do a good job in the company's security. Other work would be too difficult for him. Besides, she was worried. If she wasn't in the hotel, it wouldn't be impossible for this guy to tease all the waiters in the hotel. You go home and rest, I will do the rest of the work. Xiong said guiltily. I have an appointment with a foreign guest today. He will arrive at noon and I will have lunch with him. This foreign guest is very important. He is the vice president of the overseas department of a large foreign company. He decided to make our hotel the designated hotel for their company's business trips to China. Du Yuhua said. It's just a foreign guest, leave it to me. Xiong patted his chest. You don't even know what others are saying. Du Yuhua looked at him with contempt. Don't we still have Xiaomai? Xiong didn't give her any explanation and sent her home to rest in a domineering manner. Du Yuhua's home is a 5-story residential villa in the city center, which is very beautifully decorated. I don't know if it's because she rarely lives there, but it's very cold inside. From this house, you can tell at a glance that the yin is stronger than the yang. Sister Hua, I'll come over more often in the future to help you balance it out. Xiong said with a smile. He was serious for just a short while before he became his heartless self again. Du Yuhua was too lazy to pay attention to him. Go with Xiaomai to receive the foreign guests. I warn you, you must be serious. If you can't get this client, you will be the one to blame. Du Yuhua stated in advance. If you win, what's the reward? This is just part of your job scope. There's no reward for that. Du Yuhua replied. Without rewards, where would the motivation come from? Xiong glanced at her rosy pink lips and said with a grin, if I get this client, you can kiss me, okay? You want a beating? Du Yuhua waved her hand, ready to teach this guy a lesson. Unexpectedly, as soon as her hand fell, Xiong grabbed it, sniffed it, and said with a grin, Sister Hua, your hands smell so good. Du Yuhua's face suddenly turned red and she suddenly became very nervous. At the moment, there were only her and Xiong in the villa, a single man and a single woman. What if Xiong couldn't control himself and violated her? Because she clearly saw a burning look in Xiong's eyes, which was the desire gradually accumulating. Thinking of this, she suddenly broke free from Xiong's hand, ran back into the room, and closed the door tightly. After entering the room, she found her heart beating so fast that it was about to jump out of her chest. Recalling the scene of being hugged by Xiong in the office today, she felt a wave of heat all over her body, and even some part of her body began to feel hot. Chapter 002 for Professional Level. Sister Hua, are you okay? Xiong knocked on the door outside. It's okay. I'm a little tired and want to rest. You should go to work. Du Yuhua said anxiously. Then I'll go first. Remember our agreement. If you lose, kiss me. Xiong reminded with a smile. Kiss me if you want, let's go quickly, there's no time. Du Yuhua urged. In fact, she didn't believe that Xiong could complete the task at all. This client was very difficult to deal with. Even if she did it herself, she wouldn't have a 20% chance of success. She didn't believe that Xiong and Xiaomai, who spoke poor English, could win the client. Lying on the bed, Du Yuhua had a sound sleep, but she overslept. When she woke up, it was already past 7 o'clock in the evening. She quickly took out the mobile phone beside her pillow and found that there were more than a dozen missed calls on it. For some reason, it didn't wake her up. She took the phone and found that it had been set to vibrate mode at some point. Needless to say, it must have been Xiong's doing. He turned her phone to silent mode while she wasn't paying attention. I didn't expect that this guy, who was so heartless, was actually quite considerate, fearing that the phone would wake him up. Suddenly, a warm current filled my heart. Yaohua took out her cell phone and immediately called Xiaomai. The first thing she wanted to know was how the client negotiations were going. Xiaomai, how's the client's matter going? Yaohua asked. Have no idea. Xiaomai's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. It turned out that Xiaomai did not have lunch with Xiong at noon. Xiong took the client away without notifying her or contacting her. She searched for a long time before she found out that Xiong had gone to Los Angeles with the client. What kind of place is Los Angeles? It is an entertainment city that integrates foot bathing, foot washing, and sauna. It is a paradise in the mouths of men and a hell in the mouths of women. Xiong did not bring customers to visit the hotel, but took them to do health care instead. How could she not be angry? How does he communicate with customers when you are not here? Yaohua asked curiously. Maybe he hired an interpreter. I'll see how he reimburses the expenses when the time comes. Xiaomai said bitterly. Okay, I got it. Yaohua hung up the phone and called Xiong, but the phone was turned off. When going to places like Los Angeles, the phone must be turned off. This guy is always causing trouble instead of helping others. Yaohua threw the phone on the table and said bitterly. Some of the previous good feelings also disappeared. At this moment, the phone suddenly rang, and it was a call from a customer. Yaohua quickly picked up the phone and anxiously explained in English, Mr. Crane, I want to apologize to you on behalf of my employee. When I return, I will definitely punish him severely. Why should we punish Mr. Yi? He is so great. Ms. Du, I have made up my mind. I will go to the hotel to sign the contract with you tomorrow morning. Mr. Crane said. What, signing a contract? Yaohua was caught off guard. It took her a while to react and she murmured, Mr. Crane, Xiong. Mr. Xiong is a really good partner, very good. I am very satisfied with his hospitality. Also, his English is very good. I am very satisfied. Dear Ms. Du, see you tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, Yaohua was stunned and didn't react at all. Xiong actually knows English. He actually managed to win over such a difficult client. This heartless guy actually has such great ability. You know, even if she does it herself, she doesn't have 20% chance of success. At this moment, the phone rang. It was Xiong calling. Sister Hua, do you have any food? I'm almost starving to death. Xiong's weak voice came from the other end of the phone. Where are you? Just came out of Los Angeles. I don't know where that guy Klein got the energy from. He called 2 girls and did it for more than 2 hours. I almost fell asleep waiting. You didn't call me miss. Am I that kind of person? Xiong was filled with indignation, patting his chest and saying, I swear to God, calling you miss is not a big deal. Disgusting. Yaohua cursed. She stood up, walked to the refrigerator in the kitchen, looked at it, and said, there are still vegetables at home. I will cook for you as a reward. Come over here. Yaohua was very excited to have one such a big client, and for the first time ever, she invited a man home for dinner. Yaohua had just finished cutting the vegetables and was about to go to the kitchen when the doorbell rang. As soon as the door opened, Xiong rushed into the kitchen like a hungry ghost, only to find that the food was not cooked yet. I didn't expect you to come so soon. Wait a moment. Yaohua was about to go to the kitchen, but Xiong pulled off her scarf and pushed her out of the kitchen. Just wait, I will cook for you myself today. Can you please help me? I have very high taste in food. Yaohua was a little worried. If what Xiong cooked was not to her taste, she would not eat it simply because of it. Then she would have to cook it again, which would be too troublesome. As a man, you must never admit that you are not capable. Xiong pushed her out of the kitchen and slammed the door. Yaohua had no choice but to sit at the dining table and wait. Since this guy could handle such a difficult client like Crane, maybe his cooking skills would surprise her as well. She was still looking forward to it. More than 10 minutes later, when Xiong put a dish on the table, Yaohua couldn't help but be surprised when she saw the delicious dish. Sweet and sour spare ribs, steamed sea fish, stir-fried loofah with shredded pork, and soup dishes are just a few simple dishes that exude charming charm under Xiong's hands. Try it, Xiong said with a smile. Yaohua picked up a piece of loofah and bit it gently in her mouth, her eyes instantly lit up. Next, she tried each dish, then put down her chopsticks and stared at Xiong with a sharp gaze. How is it? Xiong asked worriedly. You know, he hasn't cooked for more than 2 years. Although he won a high award for cooking skills during his military training, he would become rusty after a long time, so he was not sure whether Yaohua would like it. Very delicious, Yaohua replied after a long while. To be honest, this was the best food she had ever eaten in her life. She didn't know how Xiong managed to cook the simplest dishes so deliciously. If you like it, then eat more, Xiong laughed. By the way, where did you learn cooking? Yaohua asked. As the strongest agent in China, he has undergone the most militarized and comprehensive training. Not only combat and firearms, but also various daily skills must be learned. Especially the braised sweet and sour spare ribs, it is so delicious, smooth and not greasy, and melts in your mouth. I don't know which chef designed this, Yaohua praised while eating. Suddenly, she found that Xiong was stunned, with his chopsticks placed in the air, not moving for a long time. The past events came to my mind like scenes. The 6-man team of the King of Soldiers, led by Captain Xiong, has the strongest martial arts skills and is codenamed the Grim Reaper. Team leader Xiaoyang has the best life skills and a variety of code names. His cooking skills are the best in the entire group, and he can adapt to various identity changes. There are also Lu Meng, codenamed Eagle Eye Zhao Yishan, codenamed Mountain King Zhao Chuanghua, codenamed Hunting Dog, and Xu Xiaofeng, codenamed Witch. However, they are all dead, but I am enjoying life here. A hint of loneliness flashed across Xiong's eyes, but it did not escape Yaohua's notice. There must be many unknown stories behind this man. A strong desire to comfort her arose in Yaohua's heart. Chapter 0025 Crescent Pendant. The two of them simply ate leafy vegetables, and for the first time ever, Xiong did not make any teasing remarks. Yaohua was initially worried about the two of them being alone in the same room, afraid something might happen. If Xiong really wanted to do something to her, she didn't know what to do. But Xiong asked to leave after dinner. Seeing Xiong, who was usually heartless and seemed like a completely different person, Yaohua suddenly felt distressed for some reason. This man must have many unknown stories in his heart. Xiong, did I say something wrong? Yaohua asked tentatively. Xiong looked at Yaohua with his eyes full of sadness. Just when Yaohua was about to continue comforting him, he suddenly burst out laughing. Sister Hua, how is it? My acting is pretty good, isn't it? Were you acting just now? Yaohua's face changed instantly. This guy made me worry about him, and he was actually acting? If I don't act, how can I know how much my sister Hua cares about me? Xiong showed a smug smile on his face, and suddenly came in front of Yaohua, grinning and said, after my probing, I finally know that Sister Hua cares about me. I'm afraid that you will die and no one in the hotel will help you. Yaohua rolled her eyes at her and said unhappily. Sister Hua, I signed the order tonight. Shouldn't you keep your promise? What promise? Why don't I remember it? Yaohua avoided his gaze. You promised to kiss me when I took the client down. Yaohua's face immediately turned red. She spat at him and cursed, who promised you? I never made such a promise. Just as he finished speaking, Xiong suddenly took out his mobile phone and played a recording. Then I'll go first. Remember our agreement. If you lose, you have to kiss me. Just kiss, let's go, there's no time. Xiong smiled smugly and said, that's all right now. Yaohua was speechless. She didn't expect Xiong to be so despicable as to record the conversation between the two of them as evidence. Now, she had no choice but to admit it. You can go back on your word, but few women nowadays can fulfill their promises anyway. Xiong sighed. Who said I regretted it? Yaohua was so embarrassed that she was at a loss. She said, we haven't even started yet, and the contract hasn't been signed yet. Then let's wait until the contract is signed. Xiong said with a grin. Xiong walked out of the house, his face becoming heavy again. I originally thought that I had forgotten my dead comrades, but now it seems that it is impossible. Feeling restless, he drove towards the most luxurious bar in the city. At this time, alcohol is the best healing tool. As for the agreement with Yang Sini, she had long forgotten it. After drinking, Xiong looked at the time and it was almost 11:30, so he drove home. Yang Sini had given him a strict order that he must be home before 12 o'clock in the evening, otherwise he would not be allowed to enter the house. I parked the car and entered the house. It was exactly 11:59. He turned on the light in the living room and was about to go back to his room to rest when he suddenly noticed a cold figure sitting on the sofa. He sat there like an iceberg and didn't say a word when he saw him come back. 11 o'clock, 59, I'm not late. Xiong smiled and sat down on the sofa. Smelling a strong smell of alcohol, Yang Sini frowned and asked angrily, have you been drinking? Wine is a must for socializing. How can we not drink it? Xiong's eyes fell unscrupulously on her exquisite body that exuded a faint fragrance, and he chuckled, wife, you are not sleeping so late at night. Are you thinking about me so much that you can't sleep? Every time he spoke, there was a smell of alcohol coming out. Yang Sini couldn't help but cover her nose, and her anger accumulated little by little. But after a while, she still sighed, with an extremely disappointed expression on her face. The two of them were just making a deal. No matter how difficult life was, it was better than marrying Yaohua. You drank tonight, and I'll deduct 100,000 from you. You drank my milk this morning, and I'll deduct 100,000 from you. Let me see how much money I can deduct from you. Yang Sini said coldly. Hey, I admit that I broke the rules for drinking tonight, but in the morning, it was clearly you who drank my beer and tried to kiss me indirectly. What does it have to do with me? I am not satisfied with the money being deducted. Xiong said loudly. Say it again if you dare. After drinking this guy's milk this morning, Yang Sini vomited for the whole morning. She didn't eat anything at noon or at night, just some porridge for supper. It would have been better if he didn't say anything. After he said it, her stomach was churning again. She had a mild obsession with cleanliness, and this was more painful than killing her. Anyway, I'm not happy with the deduction of this money. Xiong said. You can accept it even if you don't agree. After Yang Sini finished speaking, she stood up. She no longer had the heart to settle accounts with him. The smell of alcohol made her already uncomfortable stomach even more uncomfortable. Xiong, we are only together because of a deal. If it weren't for this deal, we would be people from two different worlds. I hope you think carefully about your identity and your responsibilities. After saying this, Yang Sini returned to her room. Two worlds. So what? You be the cold and icy president and I live my life of gaming. After taking a shower, Xiong lay on the bed with a pendant gently swaying in his hand. The pendant is crescent-shaped, with white jade as the base, white diamonds on the edges, and a red blood jade in the middle, which looks very high-end. Xiong checked the pendant and found that it is worth more than 10 million yuan, which is not something that ordinary people have. Looking at the pendant, Xiong's eyes were wet with tears. Captain, help me find my sister, take good care of her. I found out that she is in Guangnan province. I originally wanted to go find her after the mission, but I didn't expect this pendant, she also has it. After Xiaoyang's death, Xiong traveled all over Guangnan province in the past 2 years but failed to find the whereabouts of Xiaoyang's sister. Xiaoyang, don't worry, I will definitely find your sister. Xiong clenched his fists tightly. The next morning, Xiong went downstairs to have breakfast, and Yang Sini was already sitting at her seat. Good morning, wife. Xiong greeted. Yang Sini didn't even raise her eyebrows, as if she didn't hear anything, like an iceberg. Xiong looked at Yang Sini. She was wearing a white shirt and long grey pants today. Her hair was tied up high. This outfit was very cool and completely in line with her image. I don't know what kind of expression a woman with this kind of image would have when she is having sex in bed. When he thought of this, Xiong's eyes showed an obscene smile. Yang Sini happened to look up and saw this scene, and her disgust suddenly became even stronger. Wife, I suddenly feel like I've been cheated. Xiong sighed and said, when I first met you, I thought you were gentle and understanding, so I married you, but now, why do I feel like there's something wrong with you? What's the problem? You are sick, and it's a serious one. As soon as she finished speaking, Yang Sini's face shot out a murderous look, but Xiong completely ignored it and continued, a woman with misophobia like you can vomit for a whole day just by kissing indirectly. If you really kiss a man one day, won't you vomit for 3 days and 3 nights? The man I like won't. Yang Sini said seriously. Then I will try my best to make sure you don't vomit for a day. Dream. A man must have a dream, otherwise what's the difference between him and a useless person? Xiong stood up and prepared to go to work. Before leaving, he couldn't help but add, one day, you will fall in love with me. Chapter 0026 Brush your teeth and wait for me. Brother Xiong, good morning. I just returned to the hotel and met Wang Tong. Wang Tong is now the lobby manager of the hotel. His new life makes him full of energy. He has been used to hard work and low wages all his life, and now that there is such a good job in front of him, he cherishes it especially. Good morning. Xiong patted his shoulder, leaned over to his ear and smiled. There are many good girls in the hotel. If you like any of them, just tell Brother Xiong and I promise to help you get them. Brother Xiong, don't do this recklessly. It will be bad if Mai finds out. Wang Tong said quickly. Oh, I see. Xiong laughed. What's wrong? What kind of relationship have you two developed? Have you had sex? Do you think I'm an animal? Just have sex when you like me. Mai is a good girl. Wang Tong's face turned dark. If you don't try, how do you know if she is a she-male? I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. By the way, I have something serious to discuss with you. Wang Tong showed a serious expression on his face and said, I went to see Ms. Du yesterday and asked her to reduce my salary. Why should I give you 50,000? Xiong got angry and said anxiously, I'll go find her. I only have one brother like her. If I don't take care of you, who will? Brother Xiong, don't be anxious. Wang Tong quickly held him back and said, with my current ability, if you give me a monthly salary of 50,000, it's not helping me, it's hurting me, and it will make many people dissatisfied. Besides, I went to President Du and asked for a pay cut, but she refused at first, saying that I was specially assigned by you and it was because of my insistence that her monthly salary was reduced to 20,000. I still think 20,000 is too much. Xiong was somewhat touched. It seemed that Yaohua still valued him very much. He patted Wang Tong on the shoulder and said, Xiao Tong, Brother Xiong promises you that your life will only get better and better in the future. I will let you pick up Auntie as soon as possible. Thank you, Brother Xiong. Next, Xiong carefully looked around the hotel, not daring to be careless. Haodong's character can be seen from the fact that he cheated on another woman in the upstairs guest room when he was married to Yang Sini. He is definitely a sinister person. He wants to take over the Mingyang International Hotel and will never let the hotel's business get better. He will only use various means to attack the hotel. Taking out his cell phone and checking the time, Xiong frowned. The signing time agreed with the lecherous white guy Crane is approaching, but there is still no sign of him. Suddenly, a feeling of uneasiness surges in my heart. Nothing will go wrong, right? This is a big deal that determines whether he can get a kiss from Sister Hua. At this moment, the phone rang. It was Yaohua calling. I have some bad news to tell you. Crane did not come to sign the contract with our hotel, but went to the Fu Hua Hotel instead. Yaohua sighed from the other end of the phone. Damn, whatever you think comes true. Xiong hung up the phone and went directly to Yaohua's office to ask what was going on. It turned out that in the past 6 months, Haodong's Fu Hua Hotel had often snatched business from Mingyang International, so Yaohua arranged for a spy to be stationed at the Fu Hua Hotel. Just now, he saw Crane being caught and brought into the hotel, so he notified him immediately. It's a good thing I didn't give you a kiss last night, otherwise it would have been a big loss. Yaohua rolled her eyes at him. Sister Hua, I'll go out first. A fierce look flashed across Xiong's eyes. Yaohua was concentrating on her work. After a while, she suddenly felt something was wrong. Just before Xiong left, the look in his eyes seemed to have some other meaning. Was he planning to go to Fu Hua Hotel? She began to panic. Fu Hua Hotel was a den of dragons and tigers. How many people hated it but could do nothing about it? It was the headquarters of the Northwest Gang, and there were many bodyguards of the He family. If Xiong went there, wouldn't he be courting death? In a hurry, she had to call Xiong. Where are you? In the car. Xiong replied indifferently. Don't do anything stupid, come back quickly. Yaohua didn't expect that she had guessed it right, and ordered anxiously. Sister Hua, I know what I'm doing. Xiong's rogue voice came from the other end of the phone. If Sister Hua really cares about me, you'd better brush your teeth and wait, and then give me a sweet kiss. It's already this late and you're still in the mood to joke around. Is it worth it just for a kiss? Do you who are scolded? It's really worth it. Get the contract ready so that Crane can sign the contract when he comes. After Xiong finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Du Yuhua hung up the phone, still feeling somewhat uneasy. After all, Fuhua Hotel was not an ordinary place. After thinking for a while, she called the security department directly. Call out all the security guards that can be mobilized from their hotel and follow me to the Fuhua Hotel. After hanging up the phone, she was still a little worried and made another call. Wei Wei, I have something to trouble you. An employee of my hotel went to Fuhua Hotel. I'm afraid he may cause trouble. Can you send someone to stop him? Du Yuhua said. Wow, I didn't expect there are such brave people in your hotel. Okay, I'll take people to check it out right away. Luo Weiwei replied. Thank you for your help. After hanging up the phone, Du Yuhua brought a dozen security guards, drove 4 cars, and rushed to the Fuhua Hotel in a hurry. Xiong came to the Fuhua Hotel, parked his car on the side of the road, and stood at the door smoking. There is a constant stream of people at the entrance of the hotel, and its business is many times better than that of Mingyang International Hotel. In terms of location, Fuhua Hotel is not much better than Mingyang International Hotel, or even worse. In terms of decoration, the two are comparable. However, the business of the two is worlds apart, and there is only one reason for this, because Fuhua Hotel has a strong background, is supported by people in the underworld, and it also attacks Mingyang International from time to time. How could Du Yuhua, a woman, fight against them? Xiong took a deep puff of his cigarette, threw it on the ground, then took out his cell phone and dialed 110. Hello, I want to call the police. A friend of mine was kidnapped to the Fuhua Hotel and his life or death is unknown. After hanging up the phone, Xiong strode into the hotel, his fists clattering. I haven't exercised for a long time, so today is a good opportunity to relax my muscles. Calling the police just now was just an excuse for myself. If they are held accountable, at least I will have a way out. As he walked into the hotel, Xiong immediately saw 2 security guards looking at him with shocked expressions. Xiong recognized these 2 security guards. When he took over the hotel, Lu Bao led people to cause trouble, and these 2 were among them. Looking at their panicked expressions, it seemed that they were quite shocked by his methods at that time. A security guard quickly took out his intercom and prepared to speak, but Xiong took 2 steps at a time, grabbed him and half lifted him in the air, and said sternly, "Tell me quickly, where did you kidnap my friend?" This sound was like a thunderclap out of nowhere, startling everyone. I don't know, the security guard said anxiously. Xiong squeezed hard with his 5 fingers. The security guard felt that he was about to die. He could not care less and said anxiously, "In Mr. his office, please, spare me." Which floor is he Haodong's office on? 8th floor, room 8. Xiong threw him hard to the ground, straightened his clothes, and strode upstairs. Chapter 0027 Advertising. Groups of security guards rushed over, trying desperately to stop Xiong. Unfortunately, in Xiong's eyes, these security guards were not strong enough. They were all knocked to the ground in a few seconds and were unable to get up. Not even a single blow. Xiong looked contemptuous. At this moment, the whole hotel exploded with people talking about it everywhere. Who on earth is this guy and how dare he come to Fuhua Hotel and act wildly, said a guest who knew the inside story of Fuhua Hotel. No one has ever died. No one who caused trouble at the Fuhua Hotel had a good ending. I don't think so. This guy is too strong. He can beat all those security guards with one punch. So handsome, so manly. The people around were all screaming excitedly, all watching the show. Everyone, I'm the general manager of Mingyang International. Whenever you need to eat in the future, just come to our hotel. I promise you won't lose a single hair and will enjoy top-notch service. Xiong kicked away a thug who was not aware of his own danger, and did not forget to promote his product to the guests around him. As a hotel, we request fair competition. However, Fuhua Hotel resorted to despicable means to kidnap our guests. This behavior is shameful. With a slap, a gangster was slapped and sent flying. We have been enduring it for the past 6 months, but my uncle can endure it, but my aunt can't. He raised his leg and kicked a gangster directly between his legs. They think we are afraid of them, how ridiculous. We at Mingyang International just don't want to argue with them. Back then, when Mingyang International was popular, the Fuhua Hotel was still selling human flesh. Xiong locked up a gangster, took off his pants and said, "You didn't understand what the human flesh trade is, now you understand." Seeing the gangster wearing only a pair of trousers, the audience burst into laughter. Our hotel has launched a new sauna chicken, priced at 50 yuan each, limited to 50 per day, first come first served. Our hotel also has first-class service. Now many female students from Jiangnan University work part-time as waitresses in our hotel. They are all around 20 years old and provide great service. Our beautiful boss is a very nice person, but unfortunately her husband died in an accident half a year ago. As a woman, with a net worth of more than 1 billion, I don't know how she can spend it all. If any customer is favored by our boss. These words made the people around them excited, especially the last sentence. What does it mean to advertise? It means to beat people and advertise at the same time. The security guards of Fuhua Hotel were all vulnerable, and Xiong was unstoppable. There was a long line behind him, with dozens of people watching the fun. After all, they had never seen anyone who dared to come to the Fuhua Hotel to cause trouble in all these years. The group of people marched forward in a mighty procession and reached the third floor in no time. At this moment, dozens of ferocious-looking men stood in front of him, blocking his way. The leader was none other than Xiong, the son of the He family. When enemies meet, they are extremely jealous of each other. When Xiong saw Xiong, his eyes almost spit fire, but he still maintained his composure well. After all, he was a public figure. "Who are you? Why did you break into the Fuhua Hotel and beat up my people? You'd better give me an explanation. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Xiong asked coldly. "You like pretending, right? I'll pretend with you. You don't recognize me." Xiong pretended to be very surprised and explained, "When you married Yang Sini, you cheated on a woman upstairs. After that, we met in the elevator." "Xiong, shut up." Xiong quickly stopped him from speaking. Unfortunately, it was too late. Everyone present heard it and started talking about it. I was wondering why Yang Sini broke off the engagement. It turns out this is the reason. Cheating with another woman while you're married is really despicable. I didn't expect that such a decent person would do such a dirty thing. Yang Sini slapped him in the face, and it was a good slap. It's a good idea to cancel the engagement. Xiong looked as pale as death. He had not expected that Xiong would expose his ugly deeds in front of so many people, making him lose face greatly. "Xiong, you didn't know me, how come you know my name is Xiong now?" Xiong showed a playful expression on his face. "I have met countless people in my life, but I have never met someone as good at pretending as you. You asked people to turn Jiangnan City upside down just to get revenge on me, and you actually said you don't know me. It's true that the dog that bites doesn't bark." Recently, Xiong sent people to cause trouble for him again and again. If the tiger doesn't show its power, he will really think he is a sick cat, so he decided to tear off his face completely today and step on him hard. Xiong has chest heaved with anger, but he still held it in and ordered, "Security, kick this lunatic out." Unfortunately, no one listened to his orders, and none of his men dared to stand up. Are you kidding? Everyone present knows how skilled this guy is. If you go up first, you will just be cannon fodder. Go ahead, do you hear me? Xiong roared angrily. The dozen or so security guards had no choice but to rush towards Xiong with electric batons in hand. Xiong originally came here to demonstrate today, and this was exactly what he wanted. Instead of retreating, he advanced and kicked a security guard in the stomach, taking advantage of the pain to snatch the electric baton from his hand. Then, like a tiger among a flock of sheep, he raised the baton and struck down. In less than half a minute, more than a dozen security guards were knocked to the ground and unable to get up. Xiong kicked the last security guard away, then threw the electric baton on the ground and said calmly, "Xiong, if you don't hand over the friend who kidnapped me today, I will make sure that no one from your Fuhua Hotel will be left standing." Their voice was sonorous and powerful, and it was so powerful that it shocked everyone in the audience. Du Yaohua, along with a dozen security guards, rushed towards the Fuhua Hotel. When they arrived at the door, they happened to see Luo Weiwei's police car parked at the intersection and hurriedly ran up. "Weiwei, you're here just in time. Let's go in quickly," Du Yaohua urged hurriedly. Although she had only known Xiong for a short time, her life was saved by Xiong. In addition, after spending these days together, she had already begun to regard Xiong as her support. She did not want anything to happen to Xiong. He's just a worker. Is there any need to be so nervous? Luo Weiwei said with a smile. He is different from the other employees. What's the difference? Is he your kept gigolo? Luo Weiwei asked with a smile. The two have been friends for many years. Especially after Du Yaohua's husband died, he Haodong often attacked Mingyang International Hotel. Luo Weiwei helped Du Yaohua many times. As a result, the two became more familiar with each other, so they spoke to each other without any reservations. What nonsense! Am I that kind of person? Du Yaohua blushed and spat at her before explaining, do you remember the last time I had a car accident? An unknown hero saved me. It was him. So that's what's going on. No wonder you're so nervous. Luo Weiwei immediately stopped smiling and called out to her men, let's go up quickly. 6 police officers, plus a dozen security guards from the Mingyang International Hotel, rushed into the hotel. As soon as they entered the hotel, everyone was stunned. There were more than a dozen security guards lying on the floor of the hotel lobby, all screaming and crying. It was obvious that they had been beaten. Many spectators were watching the show around them. Sister Hua, what is the name of your savior? Luo Weiwei asked with a frown. One person defeated more than a dozen security guards. This kind of skill is definitely not something that ordinary people can do. His surname is Yi, and his name is Xiong. Du Yaohua replied. Xiong. Luo Weiwei shouted excitedly.